Number 439. I am your host, Neroke 5. With me tonight is Roger and Angel Espino. I'm just going to send a quick message here to V, just in case he wants to jump on board. Don't think he is available tonight, but I will let him know. And there we go. And hold on a second here. All right, so yeah, with me tonight are Roger and Angel. Guys, introduce yourselves.
Hello, I'm Roger Hanson. How you doing? That good enough?
No, I want more.
That's what she said. I'm Roger Hanson. You can find me on minds.com. You can find me on X. And you can also find me on Rumble as Infamous 1969, I think.
All right, and Angel Espino, welcome back.
What's up, brothers? How infamous are you? You're not sure if that's you, Roger?
Yeah, that's me.
Okay, so there you go. It's clear. I am Angel Espino. I do enjoy walks on the beach with beautiful women. I love money. I want to have some, so you guys want to donate any, please do so. You can reach me at angelespino.com. Angel investors are welcomed. My shows are normally live Sundays at 10 p.m. on angelespino.com, my main website. Also, starting pretty soon, I'm going to be live on Rumble on my own show, which is going from audio transitioning to video. So look forward to that.
Awesome.
And everybody here, all billion watching, and the two gentlemen who are joining in tonight, welcome to join when the show goes live next week.
Looking forward to it. Depends on what time, because yeah, we'll see. All right. For those of you who don't know, I am in order of membership: BitChute, Rumble, Odyssey, MGTOW TV, Brighteon, and YouTube. I am also at Minds, Gab, MeWe, Getter, and TLB Talks. You can also find me at Patreon as Neroke 5. I am in terms of site news. Well, in the eternal in the eternal crawlback from when I got massively when I had some actual full-blown hater try to shut me down. I have now, as of yesterday, I have passed the 800 and it combined total number of subs on all of my networks. I passed 800. I'm going to that, which means I'm going to surpass my old YouTube numbers by the end of probably by the end of the summer. Just saying that so that my active hater out there who just cannot seem to not want to stop downvoting the show every chance he gets, just so that the active hater knows that all that work you did to try to take my channel down is for nothing. But yes, what are the topics for tonight? Okay, topic number one, and of course I was going to have to lead on this because it's been, where I live, it's been really dominant, and I have to, of course, me and Rearson had a complete episode about this, like literally 2 days after the election. Now, topic number one: Canadian election results spark an immediate Alberta separation movement, and boy, things are moving fast there. Topic number two: Pride events are losing the bulk of their funding. Topic number three, that's the politics section, and Donald Trump was an extremely busy individual this week. He fired the head of the NSA, Mike Waltz, over signalgate. He also announced cutting funding to both NPR and PBS. And Tulsi Gabbard is opening up an investigation into Dr. Tony Fauci. That one is going to be really interesting. Topic number 4, P. Diddy rejects plea, so it's going to a full trial. Topic number 5, serious backfire occurs when a sex offender in a kid's area catches a woman using the N-word and attempts to expose her, only for that woman to get some serious support on Give, Send, Go. And topic number 6, and this one actually kind of makes me happy, massive layoff at Polygon as Vox Media sells Polygon to Valnet. Get woke, go broke. That's all I'm going to say about that one. All right, so now let's just get right into the let's just hop right into it here. Topic numero 1. We might actually be, depending upon how knowledgeable these other two guys are on the Canadian election process here. We will get into the actual election. So, what happened in Canada? Well, for those of you who didn't listen to 438, yeah, Mark Carney won the election. He won the election. What ended up happening is that Jagmeet Singh, the other left-wing parties either had their leaders, in the case of Jagmeet Singh, knowingly self-destruct the New Democrat Party, or the Greens literally pulled something like 100 plus candidates out of critical swing ridings, and it gave the Liberals just enough to win the election, but not enough to secure a majority. Now, they can secure a majority with if the NDP aligns with them. The Bloc also seriously reduced the number of seats that it also held in the election. The Conservatives actually got more votes than they have gotten probably in 35, 40 years, but it wasn't enough to secure the election. The head of the Conservative Party of Canada did not win his seat, and boy, was there a lot of messing around with his riding, as we found out later on. What immediately happened afterwards, though, was especially interesting, because what immediately happened afterwards was the day after the election results were announced. Danielle Smith, pretty much, she's a member of the Conservative Party of Alberta, but Danielle Smith, while she's not necessarily an avowed Alberta separatist, what she did here was she opened the door. She lowered the bar for Alberta to stage a referendum on separation from Canada. The old threshold was 600,000 signatures over 90 days. Danielle Smith changed it to 177,000 signatures in 120 days, of which 127,000 signatures have already signed up, present company included. And while I'm not necessarily a diehard Alberta separatist, a certain message needs to be sent to Ottawa. Carney, as if you didn't listen to 438, Carney is our new prime minister. Mike Carney is in Pat Carney is in a very, very precarious situation here. Alberta is specifically, if it becomes its own country, would be the richest part of the world if it separates. Alberta, and this, because this doesn't happen in the U.S., Alberta is
Is it like equivalent to like Texas separating?
well, it is kind of known as the Texas of Canada, but what it is though is that, I mean, Alberta basically forks out something like anywhere between 15 and 20 billion dollars in terms of equalization payments to the less rich provinces in order to kind of help them out and deal with their expenses, the bulk of which end up going to Quebec. Now, the whole thing on that is that it's the whole thing on that is that, I mean, again, right, that is money that, I certainly, Quebec in for sure has not been particularly helpful in supporting Alberta and its energy industry. They have gone on the record as saying that they will not allow a pipeline from Alberta to run to the East Coast, which would require it to basically run through Quebec. And they've gone on the record, even though we're pretty much, I mean, like, yeah, they're not paying for, they're doing very little. They've done very little to support Alberta, and there's like a whole truckload of issues that are going into this, and I'm not going to go into all of them. Suffice to say, though, that yeah, Alberta is pretty pissed. I've already heard accusations from the mainstream media. Oh, well, Trump is interfering in Canada. And it's like, these issues persisted, were an issue. The things that Alberta is dealing with were an issue before Trump was even president. What ended up happening is that Justin Trudeau, specifically Justin Trudeau, kept doing things that made these issues more and more and more pronounced. And one that I think probably there's a couple of them that really stand out, but the one that really stands out to me, because I was personally affected by this, and I'm not lying about this. There was a brownout last winter in Alberta. The reason why there was a brownout in Alberta last winter was because there wasn't enough coal and oil electrical generation power plants in Alberta and Saskatchewan to keep that part of the world running in the midst of a deep freeze. And I got to emphasize to you that, I mean, this particular section of wintertime, like, the temperatures were hanging around about minus 30 Celsius, which is about minus 20, 25 Fahrenheit, like, damn cold. And the federal government, in its arrogance, tried to blame the province of Alberta for that. And what ended up happening is that Daniel Smith came forward with the receipts saying, yeah, we tried to build power plants, but Ottawa that would be the federal government, kept throwing up illegal hurdles to prevent us from doing it. And because you were so arrogant as to try to blame me for something that you directly had a plan in, when it comes to building energy infrastructure in Alberta, I am going to do what's called a notwithstanding clause, which means that you no longer have the federal authority to tell us what we can do around our energy infrastructure, specifically around power, light, and energy. generation. And that one specifically, because that's the only time Daniel Smith so far has had to initiate the notwithstanding clause. Well, and like I said, immediately, and there was like a rally at the Edmonton legislature, which, by the way, is literally right across the river from where I live. And it was, although it was kind of like spontaneously organized on the spot, there were several hundred people who still managed to make it there. I'm currently in the midst of trying to contact a couple of them to maybe have them come on and maybe set you guys up with some interviews so that you can interview these people as well, so that we can get some feedback on what's going on here in Alberta. I can also tell you that the Native reservations, of course, immediately, by the way, the reservations suck at the tit of Ottawa, immediately tried to claim that they have a veto on Alberta separation. And I can tell you that as a Native, the reservations do not have a veto. And I can also tell you, as being Métis and Native and part of that community myself, there's a lot of Natives that work in the energy industry, and they're not particularly keen on what's going on in Ottawa either. Of course, Carney in the mainstream media, Carney immediately came out the following day and started talking about zero emissions. The mainstream media immediately came out and started to play the race card. The mainstream, including, by the way, and this is familiar because this actually happened in your backyard, Angel. There was that protest by these quote unquote neo-Nazis in Florida at one point in support of Ron DeSantis. And when they took a closer look at what really stood out for me about this one is that one of the so-called white supremacist protesters holding the Nazi flag was so stupid that he actually had a Malcolm X t-shirt on. Now, the one that they had in Toronto yesterday that got a lot of publicity, they were a little bit smarter than that. But again, right, the fear mongering has already started on this. Like I said, they've already, at this point, and keep in mind, we're not even talking like 6 days since the election. It's not even a week yet. And it looks like Carney is already attempting to play extreme right-wing fear tactics, and he's already trying to pay off Native organizations. He's also allowing Soros and his money to set up AstroTurf organizations. I'm fully expecting that you're going to see a bunch of AstroTurf organizations in my area. Yeah, shocking, isn't it? Pierre Poilievre, in terms of his seats, a couple of things happened. First of all, the NDP candidate there knowingly self-destructed his campaign. The Green Party candidate pulled out, but there was like 91 candidates running in Poilievre's riding. All of them had nobody's actually gone and investigated all of these candidates yet. There's probably some very suspicious funding there. And also they changed, because he was running in Ottawa Carleton, which is a suburb outside of Ottawa, and they gerrymandered that riding. And what they did is they linked it up with a Liberal, because there was an actual Liberal that was riding in the seat next door to him. They combined those two ridings. So, yeah, a lot of suspicious stuff happened there. The only problem is that immediately upon realizing this, an Alberta MP happily stepped down, and there's going to be a by-election in that particular riding probably within 3 months, and Poilievre is going to be sitting back in. Bottom line here is that Alberta is definitely, at the very least, going to hold a separation vote. The Saskatchewan is Scott Moe still wants to give Ottawa a chance. There's also organization, because I got a lot of people keep thinking that BC and Manitoba would be quote unquote down in the US, because I got to point something out here. Red is blue, blue is red. So yeah, in Canada, the right is blue and the left is red, as opposed to the United States where the Republicans are red and the Democrats are blue. So a lot of people seem to think that BC and Manitoba are solidly what you call Democrats, would be considered quote unquote blue states. Up here, they would be red. When in fact, the opposite is, if they were voting in the U.S. election, they would be considered swing states, and all the presidential candidates would probably be campaigning rather vigorously. BC probably has 12 or 13 electoral, they're 13 or 14 electoral votes, which is quite a bit. Manitoba doesn't have nearly as many, but I mean, yeah, BC would actually be a rather critical purple state. But yeah, there is a separatists organization also starting to get ramped up in BC. Don't know what's happening in Manitoba yet. There's also some inklings of a separatist movement in Newfoundland. I haven't heard much about that. And of course, Quebec has been wanting to separate since Christ is the fucking cowboy. But, that's just kind of like the way it's going. Again, the mainstream media is trying to play this off like with just a small fringe minority. It's not a small fringe minority. This is stuff that's been building up for a while. At this point, I got to point out, despite I'll be straight up with you. If the vote was held today, I would be voting yes for separation. Give it some time. We don't know what Carney's going to do. Carney has his hands full. If Carney continues to do the things that Trudeau has done, though, he's screwed. There's one of three potential options here. One, Alberta becomes its own country. Two, Alberta becomes a territory of the United States. And three, or links up somehow politically with the United States. Or three, Alberta remains in Canada. At this point, nobody's come out with actual official poll numbers showing what the percentage support is in Alberta yet. But I could probably assure you that is probably somewhere around the 40% total. And by the way, like I said, we're only 6 days out from the election already. What I've been seeing the establishment here in Canada do, though, it doesn't look good. Because again, like we were talking in 438, no matter which way Carney goes on this, other than to do as Alberta asks, he's screwed. And no, despite the fact that you see a lot of a lot of the reservations attempting to say that this is native land, that they were not going to go along with it, the reservations do not have a veto. They cannot veto Alberta separation, even though they're actually desperately trying to pretend like they can. And I could go on and on and on about this, but I mean, like I say, me and Rearson went on for like 2.5 hours on this, and we didn't cover everything. There's going to be a lot of talk about this on the Red Pill Nation. Like I said, there was the one last thing I'm going to throw out at the rally at the legislature grounds here in Edmonton, where I live. There was one particular Native group that was being very vocal, and they were also being, well, like racist. And I hate to say this, they were displaying full-blown anti-white hate. It's full-blown white hate. They were even, because there was an actual immigrant from India who was one of the speakers at that Alberta rally, and they like literally screamed and yelled at him and like did like the same thing that you see the far right dude telling him to fucking go home, right? So yeah, we're not even a week out, and this is a fully loaded situation. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask. But who wants to go next, Roger or Angel?
Angel go if he wants to go.
All right, Angel, you're up.
I think he fell asleep. Yep, he fell asleep.
Okay, you're up, Roger.
Well,
I didn't fall asleep. I was accidentally muted here. I'm sorry. I thought that Roger's going to take it since I was expecting age before beauty, but since first, I'll go first. I don't have much to throw in on this since I'm not Canadian. I'm an American. I always found it funny that the parties are reversed, like you said, Neroke. Now, there's two things in the world that really do scare me, and one of them is nuclear war, right? Should scare everybody. The other thing are carnies or anybody named Carney, circus folks. And if your name is Carney, you're running a clown show. And I think everybody in politics, whether it's Canada, the US, everywhere in the world right now, are running their own sort of clown show. So it's funny this guy's name is Carney. With that said, Canada right now, their best option is to join the US. Let's be honest. If not the entire country, Ottawa, I want to join. Maybe other parts of Canada, I want to join. But
Oh, well, there's real strong support for Alberta to become a state.
I would welcome it because it'll make it a whole lot easier to control the border. It'll be better for the economy in Canada and in that region. It'll just, instead of giving them $200 billion a year, make them part of the country here of the U.S. and make them enjoy all our other perks of being part of the American establishment. Because right now, Canada is kind of in a shithole. Let's be honest. And I'm looking at it from an outsider, and I love Canada. I wish nothing but the best for the entire country. But right now, the way the politics is destroying Canada is horrible. I mean, there's civil liberties that are being destroyed. Manufacturing jobs are being destroyed. They don't care about the people, like you said about the heating problem. They're just doing everything the liberal here in America, we call it the liberal leftist lunatic way, and it doesn't work here. It's not going to work in Canada. It's communism at its finest. It's Marxism. Doesn't work anywhere. Every place in this world that you've seen this kind of mentality, it's always failed and hurt nothing but the people. And this is why I love America, why I love our freedoms. I want to keep it that way. Why I voted 3 times for Trump, and why a lot of my Canadian friends are like, you know what, Trump, yeah, he's a loudmouth, but he's better than the shit we got up here. And I've heard that from a lot of friends, and a lot of Canadian friends, I will say. With that said, God bless the Canadian people. I wish them nothing but the best. It's going to get rougher up there unless you start doing the right things. Unfortunately for you guys, you're not going to be getting the free handouts from us for the next 4 years unless you are, part of the country here, or there's a reason to be, like closing that border, making things in a way that is equal to both to be profitable, not just a one-way trip on us helping you, which has been far too long. We've been getting raped by everybody in the world when it comes to trade and economics here in America. And Canada being our neighbor and pretty much our sister country next to us here, right on top of us, and of course Mexico right below us. These are like sister countries. We should take care of each other, not hurt each other. And unfortunately, that's been going on for far too long. I really do hope that we, move past all the carnies and all this nonsense, and we get back to something that which was going to be beautiful for all three countries. The pipeline that Trump was working on between Mexico, United States, and Canada, that would have been a life game changer for Canada, for Mexico, and a huge profit margin for the United States. Unfortunately, Joe Biden nixed that with Trump back in the, we're only about 4.5 months in, but with him back in there, trade wars, trade negotiations, all these things are going to happen. And I hope that somehow, Canada gets his stuff together and we're able to like go back and maybe renegotiate that pipeline, because that really would have been a game changer for all three countries. And I think it would have been a huge bridge to build to sustain all three countries, not just economically, but efficient for you guys up there not to have the power issue that you had before. Because I remember you talking about that, Neroke. I remember, you complaining about, the absence of being able to keep yourself warm when it's cold shit up there. You're not the only one that complained about that.
Oh yeah, dude, it was ridiculous. I mean, Alberta's got gas and oil to spare, and
Right.
the federal government prevented the provincial government from building gas and coal power generating plants because of global warming. Like they legally interfered, and they kept doing it right up until they had that cold snap this winter. And
Yeah.
it was a nasty cold snap, and there were brownouts.
Yeah.
And then they tried to blame Smith for it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
like that was.
they're doing the same thing here with the cost of chicken and eggs, which is, ridiculous to compare. But uh, when you look at the optics, they're doing that here, saying, "Oh, Trump is supposed to bring down the prices." Well, you imbeciles, the reason the prices went up is because Joe Biden and his administration ordered the slaughter of millions of chickens and eggs because they thought there might have been a bird flu epidemic on the horizon, which never manifested itself. Funny enough, this has never been done before. It started under Obama. He was the first one that did it. That rose it increased the prices of chicken and eggs when he was president. Not a record amount of the price hike that we had under Biden, but it significantly rose it. And now it happened again under Biden, and everything went up even more. Inflation here got crazy. And now they're trying to say, oh, well, Trump was supposed to come in and all the prices are immediately supposed to drop. You don't build Rome in a day. These things take time. And with time, those prices will come down. And the same thing with Canada. Right now, you're going to go through a rough period. Unless you guys start getting it together now, in the next year, it's going to get worse. In the next 2 years, it's going to get even more horrific. And I really, really have just the worst feeling in the world that you guys, not you particularly, Naroki, but your leadership up in Ottawa and Toronto and a lot of these places in Canada, and the bigger parts of Canada, are under like such a brainwashing that they're not seeing the forest from the trees, and they're leading you all into like a slaughterhouse, like the chickens here. And it's really really depressing to watch. And hopefully everything works out, man. That's all I really can say. Again, I'm American. You guys have your own problems. We got our problems here, and looking from the outside, it's not looking pretty. Roger, what do you want to throw in on that?
Yeah. I will throw in one other thing. Yeah,
Oh, go ahead,
no.
Neroke.
Yeah, Art Carney is an absolute globalist. He was at the WEF. He's been recorded by Rebel News attending the WEF. He was the head of the Bank of England. He identified himself as a European. Yeah. He's a full blown globalist. Yeah, no, unacceptable.
He's a peon, all right, all over the Canadian people.
All
That's all
right,
he's doing.
Roger, you're up.
Well, look at that Republican sitting there on that screen, dude, all dressed in red with a cool D superhero signal on front of it. That's awesome. Where's he from? Is he from California? Huh?
I think the D must stand for dumbass. On that one,
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Freaking, like freaking Canadian is red, right?
Yeah, red is liberal, blue is
Right.
conservative. Yeah, they
Yeah.
call the conservatives up here. They call them the big blue machine. Yeah, he's been living in Europe for most of the last 2 decades.
Mhm. Now, the whole thing with you guys joining the United States, that would be okay, but the only issue that I would have with it is I think you guys should give those freaking eggs back. We know where they went to, and freaking we
Well,
want.
I am not extracting them out of Justin Trudeau's ass. You can forget that.
Damn it. That would have been extra flavor, though, Neroke. You know, a little extra juice.
What I do find interesting about this whole deal, though, is like once the tariffs came up, all of a sudden, freaking everybody's having freaking these epidemics and shortages and stuff that are taking place. One guy, Trevor Ekekwachuk, in your thing was talking about the U.S. doesn't have a supply management like Canada does, but I think it's actually not that. I think the problem is like one good thing that these tariffs that Trump put into place did was it made it to where it encouraged people to freaking buy locally and to produce products locally rather than to have them imported and exported. And I think that's good not just for the United States, but for countries like Canada and all these other ones, because that's the mindset we need to have. And people can talk all the shit they want to about that, but the truth is it's better freaking on communities if you're buying from your community, you know what I mean? And then like whenever you're producing metal for freaking vehicles, that metal should and those resources should come from your country. They shouldn't come from another foreign country over to where you're at. And I think that's the positive thing for everybody if you just give it time to where these tariffs actually level out, which they're already going. They're finding out that it's actually doing really good now. It did a turnaround, started going up on the stock markets, where everybody was saying that it's going to be this horrible, horrible thing that's happening. It's actually doing the opposite right now, and that's what I'm getting at too. You know, don't let these people scare you. And I personally think that a lot of these shortages aren't really because we have like epidemics happening with freaking poultry and shit like that. I think that's all manufactured. I think that the real problem is we've been freaking trading with other countries for a lot of the resources that we should have been taking and buying here within our own country. Now that there's these tariffs, all of a sudden, you know, we have all these problems. When in reality, it's not that. They just want to cover their asses and they don't want people to know that most of our freaking cereals have been bought from the Ukraine and most of our dairy products have come from Canada and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
I'm gonna love seeing like Made in America on these products again.
Yeah.
That's gonna be beautiful. And you know, it's funny. In Walmart down here, in Miami, Florida, anyway, prices on eggs in the last month have gone down almost $1.
Yeah,
which is good.
I believe that. And you're going to start seeing all these supposed freaking flus that are killing poultry off just vanish.
Well, that was all fake. I mean, like I said in my statement, I mean, that started under Obama. Biden enacted it again. Trump never really took it serious the first time because it's stupid. Once the chicken dies, the virus dies. So it's not going to spread; it dies immediately. So it makes no sense. They slaughtered millions of chickens, killed, eggs by the hundreds of thousands were destroyed, and that made inflation with these products go up. And they're not going to do it again. They're suspending that because it's just ridiculous. They never had this type of outbreak before Obama. This was never an issue for decades, and only after Obama said, "Well, there might be a flu epidemic, so we're going to slaughter some chickens."
Yeah.
And then Biden and Harris, whoever was running that garbage last 4 years, did the same thing. And people wonder why the chickens cost twice as much now. You
Mm-hmm.
know?
Yep. And this chick with the skunk hair, she's fucking hot. Neroke, why you keep putting hot chicks on your screen?
Well, that's Tulsi Gabbard. By the way, I'm going to throw something out. I mean, the most recent event that what the hell is the name of that new movie that new Marvel movie that just came out? I actually saw it yesterday, and I can't
Captain
even
America?
Wildcats, whatever, not Wildcats.
Wildcats?
No, not Wildcats. No, it's that new
Thunderbolts?
Avengers. Thunderbolts, yeah.
Yes.
Thunderbolts, yeah.
Wow,
The new
that's
president.
Wildcats and Thunderbolts. That's a big stretch there.
Thunderbolts, yeah. It's like, no, the president, played by Julia Louis-Dreyfus, looks exactly like her.
Ouch.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think that was done by accident. Yeah, there's more progressing on this, but I mean, I think what it's really going to boil down to is, like, let's say that there's three options. Canada remains, Alberta becomes its own country, or Alberta merges with the U.S. If I were to pick between those three, I'd probably take the third one. The thing about this is that, well, I mean, the Democrats would absolutely resist trying to have Alberta become a state of or even a territory of the United States. The only problem is like, yeah, hi, Donald, Alberta's the single richest region in North America. If it's in the top 3 for the single richest region in the world, we got lots of money. We supply half your oil. Do you want to let us in? It's sort of like, wouldn't be surprised if they send up special forces to take out any potential people in Alberta that were absolutely trying to oppose this. I mean, it's like, yeah, I'm not going to say they will lay out the red carpet for us, but I mean, yeah, but there's a place in Canada that the U.S. would probably welcome in with open arms. I think Alberta would probably be it. Although, again, it's still early, so we don't know what's going to happen up here.
Well, first you're going to have to give up your horse meat. Like, we're not going to tolerate eating horses in the United States. That's been banned a long time ago.
Why, Wilbur?
Okay, because we just don't put up with that stuff.
I'm scared.
But horse meat is so good, Wilbur.
And this whole thing about your elections too, we don't take time to like interpret different languages. Okay, you're gonna have to speak the same language if you're gonna come here. We ain't gonna translate French one night and then English the other night.
You're not gonna say "eh" after every word, eh?
Well, that's
like what I'm doing now, eh?
No, but we will enjoy the Canadian bacon. That's for sure.
We'll let you guys hang out with Wisconsiners, and because they do that whole A thing too. So you guys.
Hey man, the horse. If Canada's gonna keep eating horses, I'm gonna vote nay.
But and those French people too. You got way too many French people up there.
No, they'll go back to Quebec. That's Quebec is Quebec. Anyway, are we done on this topic?
Yeah.
Or do anybody else have anything more to say? Because this is. I suspect there's going to be a lot of discussion on the Red Pill Nation Hangout over the next few months, because this is an absolute serious. Yes, I'm sorry if I'm scaring you with the photo of Dr. Fauci. He is actually one of the topics tonight.
I thought that was Satan myself when I looked at it. I was like, holy shit, that's the devil. Oh, no, that's Fauci.
Yeah, that's Fauci.
You're right. That is the devil.
Well, yeah, close enough, yeah.
Anyway, so let's move on to topic number 2. This one is really probably not much of a surprise, and I will go into some of the stuff that's happened over the past couple of years, which has caused the Pride movement to lose a lot of legitimacy. First of all, not only did they start going after, first of all, they did it publicly. Libs of TikTok was probably the thing that kind of, and Libs of TikTok was exposing it left, right, and center. That was one. Then when they started getting caught, instead of realizing that the jig was up and backing the hell off, they tried to, there was specifically one place in Colorado that kept getting caught all the time, until this one school administrator got arrested for being part of a child pornography ring and so forth. And all of a sudden, all of these issues out of Colorado disappear. But yeah, you kept hearing stories, and you're still getting them. If you go over to Libs of TikTok, you'll still see stories about this, about how they're trying to sneak this stuff past the parents. Including some really elaborate, the most elaborate one I heard about, I can't remember which state this was in, there was this one teacher that was doing it, and one parent kind of got wind of it, and he went in to the school, and what was going on is one of the school administrators would give him the wrong room to the school, and he would go to that room, and then the administrator would call the teacher, because they were having it at the other end of the school. And what would happen is that he would come back and says, oh, no, I'm sorry, it's this. And that would give the teacher like 5-10 minutes to rearrange everything. So by the time the parent got there, there was nothing incriminating. And what happened was, I think there was a student in there that was telling them what was going on. And they sent in 2 people, and one went one way and one went the other, and they caught them. That was one. 2, demanding the attempt after attempt at cancel culture, which is losing effectiveness. In fact, there's one story tonight that we'll be covering where it really, really backfired. Then, of course, there was, and this was really got exposed, because what I think what happened was somebody from the Daily Wire went to the Pride Parade. I don't know. I think it was actually in San Francisco too. And there were also a couple of other Pride parades where they went at, and they were like outright nudity. And what happened at this one particular Pride parade, and this really pissed a lot of people off, was there's one guy there who was completely naked and was deliberately trying to get attention of younger kids as he was participating in the Pride Parade. Like, there was like literally guys peeing out with their dicks, like pissing in this kid's pool. And this stuff got publicly exposed. Also, they're finding out that they don't necessarily have the political numbers to kind of force corporations to start doing it. So yeah, you're starting to see things back off on Pride Tape, right? And of course, there's also, specifically in the U.S., there's also freedom of religion and expression. So you cannot force and this was specifically happening with the NHL for whatever reason, you cannot force a player to wear a Pride jersey. Now, keep in mind, some of the Pride jerseys were actually quite colorful and nice looking. But the bottom line is that there were people, like there were players with strongly religious beliefs who were refusing to wear the pride jerseys. And there was actual calls of pride of various LGBTQIA plus whatever fucking groups demanding that these players get fined and suspended. And so, which was also a major turnoff. So it's been a gradual, and of course, right, they're also turning on themselves. So what you've been seeing is and this was predicted, like at the end of 2022, you were going to start to see this stuff start to wind down. You're going to start seeing organized pushback against this type of thing. And when I was doing some research on this evening before the show, I found out that there's a number of pride parades, not just in the US, but everywhere, that are losing. Some of them have lost 90% of their funding, most of their corporate backing. Oh, yeah, let's not also forget the fact that Robbie Starbuck also exposed a number of these organizations, corporations, for sponsoring events that which were not consistent with the values that the company itself responsive. And also, let's not also forget the fact that BlackRock and Vanguard and Fleet Street and whatever were also getting exposed. We're also now under the microscope and could not openly support this stuff. So you're seeing pushback everywhere. It's just not as culturally acceptable now to be supporting people, especially, and I think this is probably the one that really did it for them. It's when they started going after other people's kids. That's the one. That's the part that really, really did them in. And you can only tell a group of people, and I've literally gotten into arguments with people from the LGBTQ community who started trying to scream me down, and I had to point out to them online. It's like, look, how many fucking times do I have to? And I don't have any kids, right? And the question that I have to keep asking these people is, look, how many times do you have to be told to leave other people's kids alone before you leave their fucking kids alone? Well, you don't have any kids. That's not the point. When somebody tells you to leave their kids alone, you leave their kids alone.
It should be common sense, though, Neroke. You shouldn't have to tell somebody, hey, leave other people's kids alone. This is common sense stuff.
No, I mean, it's it's exactly. Well, I mean, I brought that's the reason why I brought up that analogy a few months back about washing the dishes, right? It's like, leave our kids alone. Hey, leave our kids alone. Hey, leave our kids alone. Hey, leave our kids alone. It's like each time it gets angrier and angrier and angrier, and they keep doing it, right? And it's like at some point, it's like, leave our fucking kids alone, and they still don't get it. And the reason why they don't get it is because they were getting a lot of external support. That support is rapidly disappearing. And of course, you've got organizations like Gays Against Groomers who've been trying to tell these organizations, yeah, we need to stop, or what's going to happen is that they're going to start stripping away the gains that we've actually made that needed to be made. They're going to start taking those away because F you. And, when somebody tells you to stop doing it multiple times and you keep doing it, right, you're going to get an angry response. It's like, I've gotten into arguments with people over this. It's like, yeah, how many times do I have to tell you have to be told to leave people's kids alone before you leave their kids alone? But they don't want to get it. And it's like, yeah, at some point, it's going to start to get nasty. And that's where it's at. And it's like, and again, right, they might have been able to fool people with DEI, and so when they were being artificially propped up, but that organization. Well, I mean, that's not does not include the fact that USAID no longer exists, because USAID was the Trojan horse. It appears to me that USAID was the Trojan horse that was funding a lot of this stuff everywhere. Not the only place, mind you, but the main one. Ever since USAID got shut down, like a lot of this stuff seems to have lost a lot of its funding. And now that it's losing a lot of its funding, right, it's being exposed for the paper dragon that it is. And keep in mind, if somebody they're still going to have to go after the Pritzkers for the AstroTurf campaign. Oh yeah, and let's not even begin to talk about preschool, like underage, like teenagers having life-altering surgery before they're even legal adults. Before maybe they're just gay and haven't figured it out. And the reason why they're doing it is basically they're turning these kids, because once they have this surgery, they have to go on this mix of drugs, and they have to stay on them for the rest of their life. So basically they turn into a cash cow. It's got nothing to do with affirming gender identity. This whole thing about mutilating the kids and affirming gender affirming surgery to kids that are still minors has got nothing to do with morality. It's got everything to do with money, and is being done by the Pritzkers, who so far, for whatever reason, have not been called out for what they're doing. And but I mean, what's going on here is that, like they've been just, like this is the definition of insanity. And Roger knows what I'm talking about here. They're just doing the same thing over and over and over and over again and expecting different results. And what's going on here is that they're being called out on it now. And there's not a whole hell of a lot more they can do about it. But not good at all for them. They've done this to themselves. I hate to say it, man, but this is a movement that just went too far, and they have to be reeled back. It's like, you do not touch other people's kids. And I mean, I'm able to figure that out, and I don't even have kids, right? Like, I don't even want to think what it's like for somebody that does. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Roger. Oh, sorry, Angel. Angel.
So beauty before age once again. Well, I'll say this much. Every person who harms a child belongs not in jail, under the jail, on an electric chair, in a booth with a lethal injection, with a shotgun to their head, with the worst outcome. If you harm a child in any way, shape, or form, you don't belong breathing the same air as the rest of us. That's just my take. With all the transgender and all this crap that's going on with children, like you said, they're doing it for nothing more than profit. Especially here in America. Liberals don't give a crap about the health of these kids. They know there's only two genders. Nobody's really that stupid. They just pretend and follow the stupid 47 gender agenda, affirmative, whatever, however you want to describe it for these people in the
gender affirming care is what it's called. But
right, I was trying not to go with the care, because it's really, there's no care involved. It's gender affirming idiotic behavior, because you're not affirming a gender to a person because they were really born a certain gender. So if a person believes that they were born in the wrong body, you know what? Tough luck. That's your life. If you want to pretend, That's up to you. Don't make the rest of us have to play your demonic delusional games. But on top of that, leave the kids alone. And they're not going to do that unless we put our foot on their throat and stomp them to the ground and say, hey, we're not effing around. We're in the F around and find out era. And you're effing around and you're going to find out that mommy and daddy are not going to allow this. You know, not all mommy and daddies, because some of them are lunatics and they're pushing this crap. But the real mamas and daddies out there who are not pushing this crap are not going to continue to allow this. And that's why you're getting all this pushback and all. Look, any parade that celebrates sodomy and the gross behavior of two men in bed, women in bed together is kind of pretty, but two men in bed is disgusting. Let's be real. But anybody who celebrates this crap and has parades in front of children showing their genitalia, I'm sorry, that's a step a little further than the edge of, okay, let them have their fun. Again, stop trying to read and drag to children in school. Stop inviting children to these freaking parades. Sorry, Roger, I used your word there. If you want to have your parades, do it in your own areas in San Francisco, somewhere where no kids are involved. Have at it. I don't care as long as there's no children being harmed. Like the Diddy thing, I normally wouldn't give a shit, but there are minors involved. Okay, there's rape involved. There's criminality involved, human trafficking involved. If it was just a bunch of rich people that got together and fucked and got drunk and high and they all were rich and over the age and they didn't care, have at it. That's none of my business. But when you involve minors, human trafficking, rape, and all kinds of criminality, that it becomes a legal issue. Now we're talking about some serious stuff. And the same can be said about transgendering kids from one to the other. Look, if a 2-year-old says, I feel like a girl, mommy, that's a delusional kid. That doesn't mean you got to put them on hormones when they're 4 and transition them into something else. And moms, especially you liberal moms out there who might want to see this one day or whatever, stop letting your 3 and 4 and 5-year-old boys watch crap like RuPaul on TV, shit like Ellen or Rachel Madcow or any of these liberal leftist lunatic agenda pushing lesbians and homosexuals and drag queens push this narrative onto your children. Remember, your kids are open-minded and they're sponges for this kind of stuff, and their kids and their mind gets warped, and next thing you know, they think that they're female or they think they're boys, and they think they're not in the right body because they're looking at it and mommy's allowing it. That's one of the reasons there's been a spike in transgender kids over the last 20 years is because of the programming on television, the mommies, liberal mommies allowing their kids to watch it. You can go from any of these cases. The 11-year-old trans kid who was really famous, I don't remember his name, but it was a trans kid a few years ago who was really famous. And
Desmond, I think his name was,
yeah,
but I can't remember his name.
that's one Desmond Transman Desmond. That's the same kid. That kid completely lost, right? You look at him, you're like, yeah, he's acting super gay. Now, when you listen to how this started, it's because the mom was a big fan of RuPaul and Ellen and would allow her kid to watch that garbage with her when he was 1, 2, 3, and 4. So what do you think is going to happen by the time he's 4, 5, and 6? He's going to think he's a transgender. His mind was warped and brainwashed. Now he's a lost cause. And a lot of kids that have this happen to them, and I'll stop right after this because this is just avenues I hate talking about, and it's disgusting. But one of the main things that is happening here, and Roki hit it right on the head, is this is for profit. That's all this is for. This is to make money off of these children for the rest of their lives. Like this trans jazz girl, a boy who became a girl, Jazz, whatever her name is or his name is. That's another one. And a lot of these people, when they get older, they start to regret it. And I see in the cases of people that were fully transitioned from male to female who transition back and say, "This is the worst thing I ever did. And I wish I had never done it. I wish my parents would have never allowed this." And this is happening more and more because people grow up and grow out of this mentality when they get older. That's why there should be a law that you cannot be under 18 to even consider having any hormones or even consider going through this process. The one thing I will say I have respect for Caitlyn Jenner is at least Bruce waited till he was really old. He raised his family, he had kids. He did the right thing as a father, right? And a stepfather for the Kardashians as far as he could, because that's an entirely different mess. But I respect the fact that he waited till he was much older and then he opened up about his mentality since he was a kid. I respect that and I believe him more that he is truly a transgender person than all these kids coming out now claiming that they are. Because I can tell who's legitimately been suffering through this for his entire life and who's brainwashed by their mommy and daddy. It's as clear as night and day. And shame on the medical industry for going along with this and looking at it as a profit margin and that it's an epidemic and as a mental disease, which is what exactly this is. It's a mental disorder, homosexuality, transgender, all these things are a mutation of the brain. We all have different mutations. We all have different, issues with our minds. Some more than others, but it's proven that not everybody's built the same. But there is a certain thing that always separates the one thing that separates people on classes is the way they look. When you look at people with Down syndrome, they all have a specific look. When you see people that are in the alphabet community, they always have a specific look. There's a reason for that. It starts off with a genetic thing that happens in the mind that transitions all over. Nice word, right? But it goes all over the entire person as they age. It's part of their DNA. It's a mistake in the DNA and a mistake in the brain. So, in other words, we're playing along to people with mental disorders. And with that, I'll let Roger give us 2 cents.
All right, before Roger continues on, Jordan Peterson brought up something. The chance of having one kid with with gender identity problems is 1 in 3. Before all this happened, was 1 in 3,000. The chance of having two is 1 in 9 million. The chance of having three is 1 in 27 billion. So, and I can think of two people right now, Charlize Theron and Megan Fox, that have three. So, I mean, there should only be maybe one on the entire planet, and I can think of two without even having to think about it. And they're both Hollywood celebrities. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Roger for his take.
Now, when it comes to all of this stuff, what's going on, you first have to take a look at what's going on behind it, the backgrounds. You've mentioned a few things about companies that have been encouraging woke movements in the past. One particularly that Elon freaking put out of business because he puts so much stress on them. But that's a good example of what's going on here. Now, you can get caught up in a lot of that conversation that you guys are having right there, or you can take and you can look at the business aspects of it and what's really going on in the background, okay? To everybody who's looking at it, they're thinking gay pride. These are gay people doing their freaking thing, and that's all there is to it. But there's big business behind it. What happened was in March, Donald Trump put out a freaking fact sheet on the White House bulletin board where President Donald Trump removed DEI from foreign services.
Right. Yeah.
And
Executive ordered, I think, right?
right now, the whole thing about that was you said USAID. Okay, USAID was a big movement going on where they were taking money and they were sending it out to all of these organizations and funding them, giving them state tax money to freaking endorse things like gay pride and transgender movements and things like that. Not only here, but in other countries as well. And Donald Trump put an end to it. Now, just so everybody knows, DEI stands for diversity, equity, and inclusion. Now, what's going on there when you hear those three words is something called private equity. Okay, and that's a private equity firm. So basically, what organizations like LGBTQ, which claims they're not an organization, but for some reason they're having issues with funds now, and these freaking donors who aren't donating to this quote unquote organization is backing out of it. They've been backing out of supporting LGBTQ pride events all across the United States, and a lot of it is because of their excuse is that it's because of backlashes that's coming out of DEI initiatives. But the thing of it is you got to understand something about private equity firms. Okay, now usually private equity firms are firms that are created by businessmen, and their goal is to like improve a company's performance and then sell it for a profit. They're the ones that go into corporations and they cut it up and they freaking sell it off in pieces and stuff like that. Now, what these organizations have learned how to do is create their own private equity firm that has investors, which are these organizations, and they're put on a equity list. So if you're on this list, then you get freaking perks. Basically, if somebody needs something that pertains to what you're involved in, like gay pride or something, then freaking they'll send them to you and recommend you over somebody else, as long as you're a part of that program. Okay. So in reality, what's happening is these freaking investors are making money off of gay pride events. They're making money off of freaking these programs that encourage children to be transgender. They're encouraging, or they're making money off of schools trying to teach kids sex education at the age of 6. All of these things, man, they're making money off of that in the background. They're also monopolizing freaking these platforms too. Like all the censorship we're talking about, it's usually caused because of woke narratives. A good example is Stripe. They're notorious for their censorship. They use a system called Know Your Customer. And that's called KYC. And what they do is, in order for a person to freaking get monetized on certain platforms, they have to go through Stripe. And what Stripe does is they go through and they check out the person's freaking profile to find out what kind of content they're putting out. If they don't approve of it, then they don't get freaking, they're not eligible for the Stripe service. They're not eligible for Stripe to send them money from the platform that's freaking monetizing them. And they go one step farther even. Before they even freaking allow a platform to use Stripe, these platforms have to agree to allow Stripe to go through their entire freaking platform and thoroughly search through people's accounts, even if they don't want to be monetized. Everybody, they have to search through them to make sure that freaking these people aren't freaking supposed to be like these, terrorists supposedly. But what they're really doing is searching out freaking people, finding out who's conservative, who's woke, who's this, and finding out what they need to do or what they need in thing. And they're basically data mining. They're stealing information so that they can put it in a database. And this is the kind of shit that's happening because of these private equities that are being created. And it's through programs like diversity, equity, and inclusion, and USAID and all of that. So that's basically as far as I want to get into it when it comes to all that, because this stuff really does make me sick, when I have to talk about it, because it is a pretty disgusting thing to have to talk about. So
yeah, when I bring this topic up, I mean, there was at one point, because there was like a long run of it at one point last year, and like there's somebody going, "Why are you always talking about this?" And I have to point something out here, right? Like, I am not a guy that goes out specifically looking for pedos, right? I am not a guy who goes out looking for sex traffickers. That's not what I started this channel for. In the process of doing that, though, this particular topic keeps coming up every time I turn over a rock, right? Like, like I lift over a rock and there's like these dirt bags that come crawling out and they start running off, and it's sort of like I like look at them and I'm like, oh, yeah, that was kind of fucking creepy. And I kind of like take a look at it, and it's like you can only look at this. I mean, a lot of this for me started with the Hollywood stuff, and we are going to be talking about P. Diddy tonight too, by the way. And I was like looking at a lot of the stuff started with the Hollywood stuff, and it was like, I mean, the thing that eventually turned me off from, despite all of the wokeness, and trust me, like at one point last year, for instance, or was last year, was it 2 years ago? One of the towns in Alberta decided that they weren't going to have pride crosswalks. And what ended up happening was that they had an actual plebiscite and they voted against having pride crosswalks. What ended up happening is that the arts community in the city that I live in actively started talking about boycotting the artists that were from that city. And there was a lot of talk about it, including this one guy. And I mean, I will freely admit, it was a little bit personal between him and I, because he had tried doing some things over the years to try to undermine my film group. And what I ended up having to do is I had to publicly go onto the film group that I run here, and I had to post up at my group. It's like, no, I don't do cancel culture, right? Like, there will be no cancel culture at my group. If you have a problem with that, that is too bad. And it was like, there were like literally probably about 3, 4, 5 people that tried to yell me down. And I mean, I tolerated that until one of these individuals decided to invite in, because you can't post up at my group unless you're actually an approved member. Somebody, or you get invited in by one of the other group members, and this guy got invited in. This guy started yelling and tried to yell and scream me down. And it's like, I mean, I point out, it's like, man, it's like, who let you in? And I had to go through and I had to like literally ban every single person that had tried to scream me down, because I wasn't sure who it was that had invited this person in. And then I won't even get it. Like, but it was Cuties, and the way that the Sundance Film Festival gave Cuties, and by the way, while I have never seen Cuties, and I will never actually ever see Cuties, because I'm going to take the word of multiple people who are not even necessarily moral conservatives, who saw the movie and pretty much told me that it was basically softcore kiddie porn. But I mean, I've seen some outtakes on it. There's some, like, the girls are clothed, but there's actual full-blown crotch shots. Clothed, but crotch shots of 13-year-olds in that movie. And Sundance gave that movie an award because they wanted to own the Republicans. That's the only reason they did it. And I'm like, that is just disgusting. And it's like, yeah, no, after that. And of course, that followed rather quickly with what happened with Sound of Freedom and the way Disney tried to prevent that movie from coming out. Like, Disney's in a position to be morally dictating anything to anybody at this point. So, yeah, that was my experience with it so far. Yeah, I don't go around specifically looking for pedophiles, but they just have this bad habit of continuously showing up as I go through this. And it's sort of like I can't, I cannot not report on this stuff.
It's hard to look away, isn't it, when you are just overblown with information on this person being like that, or that
Yeah.
person being like that. First of all, it's hard to deal with people like that once you know that that's the way they are. I mean, there's no going back.
No, there isn't. There really isn't. It's, you can't. Once you see it, you cannot unsee it. And once you know it, you cannot unknow it. It's like taking the red pill, literally and figuratively. And with that, let's move on, because this is going to be the politics section. And I know Angel's just going to be loving this part because it's a lot about Donald Trump on this particular one. Topic, I'm probably going to be talking for quite a bit here. Although, again, this is probably more Angel's cup of tea, because this is American politics. First of all, there was a situation around signalgate. Now, from a distance, and this is something that has been brought up on more than a few podcasts, it looks very much like somebody put that reporter's name on that particular discussion on purpose. The way the Democrat Party and the mainstream media just pushed the narrative on this to the point of literal and absolute stupidity suggests that it was exactly what it is. Trump really had no choice, I think, in the matter, but to at least, he got reassigned to the UN, I will point out. So he wasn't fired. He was just simply reassigned. But yeah, hold on a second. He was removed as head of the NSA for very obvious reasons. From where I'm standing, it looks like that whole signalgate thing may have been planned. And again, Trump is very aware of what happened in his last term, where he had people that he had appointed that undermined him, and he's not going to tolerate that this next time around. So yeah, regardless of whether Mike Waltz actually was involved or not, he had to go. His second in command was also removed. Now there's a lot of suspicion that's falling on his number two. Both of them are gone. Mike Waltz got reassigned. The number two was not reassigned. But yeah, it looks very, very much like it was deliberately planned that way. And so, yeah, Trump had really had no choice. Now, the next one, and we've had a discussion about this one before, but I'm not overly surprised. I was having this discussion with V. It was kind of off the record. There was some stuff on PBS that I would never miss. There's 3 shows on PBS: Nature, Nova, and Nature, Nova, and I can't remember what the name of the third one was. But there were 3 programs. Frontline. Yeah, that was the name of it. Those were shows that I used to watch religiously. Again, as I became, and I realized that Noam Chomsky has a bias and whatever, but when Noam Chomsky gave me some awareness of what was going on with the media and whatnot, now when in particular, I had to stop watching Frontline altogether after Trump assumed office. And it's not because I was a diehard Trumper. It's because like PBS was like outright, like, in a way, PBS was even being more dishonest than CNN in terms of its coverage. I had to stop watching Frontline altogether. I will still watch Nature. I will still watch Nova if I get the opportunity. But I mean, PBS turned into, because this government, for the most part, PBS turned into garbage. I can watch Nature on that show, and I can occasionally watch Nova, but I literally can't watch the political programming because it is like openly biased and it's definitely globalist. Now, NPR, literally, I don't know the exact figures on it, but apparently 95 to 98% of the senior management at NPR are Democrat supporters, probably also globalists. Again, if I'm Donald Trump and I'm looking at this, it's like, yeah, there's no way this is sort of like the same thing that happened with Harvard. There's like no way that I am giving money to organizations that are not actually informing people, but they're indoctrinating. So yeah, PBS and NPR have had their funding cut. What was going to happen if Pierre Poilievre had won up in Canada is that CBC has, like, picture PBS having a budget larger than ABC, NBC, and CBS put together. That's what CBC is like in Canada, and Poilievre was going to cut that. So yeah, if they want to engage in indoctrination as opposed to doing what they were doing 20 years ago, which was doing really good, entertaining scientific programming like Nova and Nature and all of that sort of stuff, great. The only thing that I can watch on PBS now to a certain degree is Nature. That's the only thing. I can only watch the wildlife documentaries. I can't watch anything else. The whole thing is that, and again, right, what Trump, and this is a pattern with him, what Trump appears to be doing with a lot of these organizations is that he's just waiting. This is what he did with Harvard too, and with Pennsylvania University. He just waits for them to make a mistake, and then when they make that mistake, that's when he yanks the funding. That's what he did with Harvard. That's probably what he did with PBS and NPR. You're going to see him doing this more and more frequently. He's just going to wait for these propaganda organizations to make that mistake, and then he's going to pull their funding. Columbia fucked around and found out. Pennsylvania University fucked around and found out. Harvard fucked around and found out. And now PBS and NPR fucked around and found out. I don't want PBS to go away. I would like to continue to watch Nova in Nature. I'm definitely not watching Frontline probably ever again. But, even on Nova, which has been one of my personal favorite programs since I was a kid, you see a lot of leftist propaganda even on a show like Nova, and even on Nature. If you know what to look for, you will even see it in the documentaries done at Nature. So yeah, good on Donald Trump for calling that out. And the third one, and this is the one that I think is going to make a few people happy, Tulsi Gabbard specifically, but I think the Justice Department in general has finally decided to, and this is something that was talked about back in 2021 when Rand Paul was grilling Dr. Fauci about his support for gain of function research at the Wuhan lab, and Fauci refused to answer. Now, as we all know, Fauci has not officially been charged with any crime, but somehow Joe Biden managed to get around to giving Fauci a pardon for something that he hadn't been charged with, which automatically raised a whole bunch of red flags. And of course, you got the usual arguments from the woke crowd. Oh, well, he hadn't done anything wrong. Well, if he hadn't done anything wrong, why was he given a pardon? Well, here's the thing about a pardon that a lot of people don't know. A pardon means that he cannot be prosecuted for his crime. But the flip side of a pardon is that if he is called in to testify against anybody that worked underneath him, he has to give up the ghost. Basically, yeah, he is immune from prosecution, but in order for that immunity from prosecution to be viable, he effectively has to throw everybody else around him under the bus, which would include real world-class slime balls. The one that really springs to mind right off the bat is that fucking dirtbag Peter Hotez. Just, oh my God, what a disgusting, lying piece of shit human being he was. I can also think the head of Pfizer, the head of AstraZeneca, various CEOs, like anybody that didn't get a full-blown pardon from Joe Biden. They might not necessarily be able to throw Fauci in jail, but they can force Fauci to basically cause anybody else that supported him in his work, they can all be tossed they can definitely all be prosecuted. They can all be sent to jail. So, yeah, Fauci won't ever serve a day in jail. But in order for Fauci to not serve a day in jail, everybody else that was around him is going to have to go to jail, or is going to have their reputations absolutely destroyed. And yeah, I mean, no one, like Fauci might not, again, and that will destroy Fauci's reputation. So he won't be, quote unquote, he won't be in jail, but his reputation will be, he won't be killed, but his legitimacy in any credibility he has as a human being and as a doctor and as a scientist, all of that will be destroyed. And I think that's probably something that's gonna, I mean, yeah, he's not gonna, he can save his ass, or he can save his face, but he can't save both. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why they did this. And yeah, Tulsi Gabbard has specifically announced that they are specifically investigating his involvement in the gain of function research that was taking place. And all I'm going to say is, yay, couldn't happen to a nicer person. Yet, he won't spend any time in jail. But the people who worked under him, they sure as fuck will. And I am looking forward to Peter Hotez in particular. That I had to look at him like just spout lie after lie after lie after lie after lie. And, he did not get a pardon. I would love to see him being walked out of the halls of Congress in fucking handcuffs. Yeah, I dislike that asshole that fucking much. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Angel, who will probably have quite a bit to say on this, which is a good thing because I got to go to the bathroom.
Well, I'll let you go European for a minute there. I'll throw this out there. I don't think not only is Fauci not going to do any time, I don't think any of these people are going to do any time. And this is the reason why. Now, while the rookie stated something that is fact, that Fauci would have to go and, if subpoenaed, he would have to go into Congress and answer questions. But here's the thing. He has also the ability to say, yeah, these people worked in the lab, but none of them did anything illegal. I never saw them do anything illegal. They worked there. But all these charges, I have no idea of any of this. And he's denied gain of function research in the past, right? Even though we know he lied about it. But he denied it. And with him being pardoned, all he has to say if he's subpoenaed is like, yeah, they worked there, but I didn't see anything. Well, why were you pardoned, Fauci? Well, because, the people that are coming in, they're going to start going after the enemies of Biden. And they're going to make us martyrs. And they're going to go after us and blame us for, what they did. And that's the game plan. That's their game book. That's the only thing they have to really hang, any hopes on when it comes to people like Fauci. But I don't think the players involved are going to ever face any jail time for any of this crap. Because, again, yeah, you could subpoena him. Yeah, his pardon might mean that he has to face answers or questions and give answers. Doesn't mean he's going to tell you the truth. We know the guy's a liar. He's always been a liar. He's been lying since the 70s and the 80s with the AIDS epidemic. He lied under COVID. The guy's always been a liar. In fact, the entire time he's been doing his so-called job, whatever that really his job was, they haven't cured any diseases. They haven't come up with anything helpful for humanity. It's been the opposite. Every decade has been nothing but the opposite. And it's not just Fauci, and it's not just a recent gain of function research. This goes back multiple decades. So where are you going to start? Who are you going to start putting in prison? Right? You got to start at the alphabet at letter A as you start working your way down, because there's literally probably dozens and dozens, if not hundreds, of people involved. You can't criminally go after every one of them. I wish you could, but you know how much resources and time and money that's going to take. So while it's a beautiful thought to think that Fauci will have to snitch on everybody, I highly doubt that's going to happen. And again, I highly doubt any of these people are going to face any federal time. Uh, Tulsi Gabbard and the investigations and all that stuff is beautiful, and it's great. But at the end of the day, it's going to be just a waste of time because they got pardoned by the, Sleepy Joe in the auto pen. What they really need to do is an investigation on that auto pen, and if Joe was given these pardons while at the beach, and he wasn't the one actually issuing the pardons, well, there might be a constitutional way around that. Maybe you can't bring up the initial original charges, but there might be other charges you can bring up. Who knows? The thing is, the investigation into who was actually issuing these pardons is the most important part. Is the auto pen legal? Because they didn't sign any of this crap with auto pens before they were, you know, invented. So this has never been used in the past until it was an invention that they made the auto pen, right? For the presidents who couldn't be there to use his own hand to write his own signature on a paper, which is ridiculous. I mean, what kind of president can take the time to write a signature on a bail or a document or a pardon? I mean, is that even a president? We know Joe Biden wasn't a president. He was just a puppet being pulled on strings. But if he was not the one issuing the pardons, who was? If it was Kamala, they're not legal pardons because she had no legal right to do that. If it was Obama, they issued the pardons as acting president under Biden, who's actually the face of the White House, then it's also illegal because Obama is not a sitting president. So I think that's where the investigation needs to go, is like, who actually did the auto pen work? Because, yeah, auto pens are nice, but the president of the United States has to be involved in the pardoning. The president has to be the one that signs it. The president has to know the names of these individuals. I dare anybody to get Joe Biden and ask him, okay, you gave 1,000 pardons. Can you name them? Probably won't be able to. Why? Because he wasn't involved in the process. And if that's the case, that's where the investigation needs to lead. And again, Tulsi's doing a fantastic job, and she's going to get better at it, I do believe. But I think going after Fauci and believing that you're going to get him to squeal on other people, you're wasting your time. He's not going to do it. He's a liar, a career liar. And just because now he's pardoned doesn't mean he's going to change his tune and sing like a bird. It's not going to happen. And that's all I got to say about Fauci. Roger, you want to drop in, or Neroke, you want to drop in if you're done being European?
Okay, yeah, well, yeah, I'm done. I'm done with my. I'm done with
He's a
that. Yeah,
European. He's a European.
the whole situation with that is that if Fauci, it turns out that if Fauci lies like that, then he no longer has the presidency. No longer has the pardon. No longer covers him. So it's like,
Yeah,
yeah,
but it's your word against his. He can say, I'm not lying. I don't know of any behavior. How can you
yeah,
prove it? You can't prove it. That's
yeah,
the big thing here, is how do we prove that he's lying? We know he's lying, but we can't prove it. We don't have a time machine. We can't go back. Now we do know this, Naroki. Gain of function research was founded under Obama. That much we do know. We have tracked the money. It was like 8 something million one time. There was more money given to them later. We could track that money back. Whether that was used and by whom, that's a different story. If we have now Fauci giving orders to people and they're involved in the research, they could ask him, well, did you give them orders to do this or that? And he could say, well, I have no recollection of that. I never gave those orders. Again, how do you prove him wrong? Your word
Yeah,
is
it's
his.
difficult. It's difficult, but I mean, it's not impossible. I'm just saying,
No,
like
you
it's
can
not
bring him in.
necessarily about Fauci. Yes, I mean, I'm not going to say it will happen. I'm just going to say just the process of making these guys fucking sweat would be worth the effort. As again, Peter
Oh yeah.
Hotez in particular, I want to see that motherfucker squirm.
Well, that's just a personal grudge, and I fully understand. I'm with you 100% on that one.
Oh, Peter Hotez is just a
It's pathetic. It's pathetic when you see a Canadian freaking act that way. It's just horrible. It's freaking horrible. You guys are dignified. You should be ashamed of yourself.
If Michael J. Fox was dead, he'd be turning over in his grave, scrambling around right
You
now.
know it. You
The
know it.
Parkinsons will be going crazy from the other side.
You just, I mean, my goodness.
John A. McDonald is turning over in his grave. Anyway, you have anything? Oh, by the way, we weren't
Yeah,
just talking about. By the way, Angel, we weren't just talking about Fauci here. We were also talking about.
Mike Waltz.
We were also talking about Mike Waltz and NPR.
Yeah,
You didn't even
yeah,
talk about that stuff.
yeah. You know what? With all the Fauci talk, it just kind of slipped my mind. The NPR stuff, like, they relocated this guy for a reason. He made a mistake. He's a nincompoop. He's an idiot. I don't think he did it on purpose because he meant bad. Look, Signal is a very easy program to have this happen. At least he wasn't masturbating on a call like somebody from CNN was. Remember that guy?
Yeah, oh my god.
Oh, who
Okay.
says he wasn't, though? I mean, you have no
Well,
evidence saying he wasn't.
he wasn't caught on video. I'll leave it
Oh,
at that.
okay.
Okay, so
That's
we'll leave it
fair.
at that. Fair enough, right?
Yeah.
Now, with that said, I do like the fact that they relocated this guy because I don't think he did it deliberately. Like he was, trying to like destroy Trump or anything like that. I think he just made a stupid mistake. Older guy, didn't understand the technology, perhaps. I'm not sure that part of it. Included somebody in the conversation that they shouldn't. That person included somebody else that should. Pete should not be, I think, looked at as being responsible for, Pete Hetzig should not be
Hegseth,
responsible.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, they were trying to make him responsible, though.
I
That
don't
was the
think
thing.
he should be given the scapegoat treatment on this because I don't think it's his fault. Again, he's new to his position. So a lot of these guys are maybe not familiar with this technology. And look, as a podcaster that uses Skype, Signal, and Telegram, and all these platforms, I can easily see where somebody can include somebody, not even realize it, and they can be a bad actor or a bad player. It happens all the time. Again, nobody is caught with their pants down masturbating. So, and at the end of the day, nobody was harmed, which is the most important part. This is not like what happened with the pullout in Afghanistan, where we lost American lives thanks to Joe Biden. Nobody lost a life here. Okay, it was a stupid mistake. Trump dealt with it. I think this is a nothing story. It's just the liberals, they have nothing else to talk about, so they're gonna keep bringing stupid shit up because again, they don't have an agenda. They don't have a plan to do anything. So it's Trump this, Trump that, and what I find funny is, moving past this, but going back to like things like Trump deporting the illegals, right? We talk a lot about that on these shows. And the funny thing about that is, yeah, he's deporting criminals, MS-13, gangbangers, Trinidad Agua, all these, known criminals. That guy who got sent to El Salvador is in prison there because guess what? The reason they came to America, because he killed a rival gangbanger and they were going after him. The rival gang wanted to kill him, so he fled to America. Not exactly a nice guy you want to have living next door when he's a murderer. That's who that guy is. That's why he's back in prison. If he was a nice El Salvadorian, he'd be living with his family, not in prison. But they wanted to throw him in prison because he's a murderer, a drug dealer, and a bad guy. So he came here, hid out. We found him out. We sent him home. We sent him packing. But liberals protect pedophiles, criminals, and really just nasty people these days. That's all they're about. They have no anything else to talk about. They got nothing to run on, so they are doing nothing but everything Trump does right to them is wrong. If somebody makes a stupid mistake like the signal stuff, they blow it out of proportion. But they forget the one thing that I keep bringing up and laughing at them every time I hear about this illegal stuff. Their last hero, Barack Obama, guess what his nickname was when he left office? Deporter in chief. Why? Because he deported more minorities than any president in history, including Trump. That motherfucker literally invented the cages that the liberals then tried to blame Trump for. I have images from when Obama was president where minorities were begging him to not separate them from their moms. And Trump is being vilified for that by the same people that said nothing for 8 years when Obama was doing it. Okay? That is hypocrisy at its finest. That is liberal lunacy at its finest. And anybody in the liberal world who says, oh, but that was years ago. Yes, it was years ago. But it doesn't change the narrative that y'all did it. Y'all said nothing about it. And now you want to vilify Trump for doing it because now it needs to be done. We need to deport these illegals because it's not just a few 100,000, it's 20 million with criminals, child molesters, drug dealers, prisoners that got let out. That is the truth, okay? People from the CCP, people are nationals from China that are here buying land near nuclear bases. This is dangerous for this country in America and for Canada and for the rest of the world. So, pardon me, liberals, if I don't cry every time you have a problem with something Trump or people around him do, by mistake, like the signal stuff. Tough cookies. Shit happened. They dealt with it. Move on. If it happens again, then it's a problem. If it happens once, shit happens. People make mistakes. We're all humans. I do like, again, that Trump separated the facts from the fiction. He sent this guy over to work for the UN. That's like being sent to, I don't know, like Alaska as a reporter once you fuck up on an interview. And they're like, you know what? We don't want to fire you, this guy, but let's send him to our, constituents in Alaska somewhere and just get rid of him for a while. That's kind of like what happened. He didn't want to fire the guy because he knows he didn't do it on purpose, but he had to fix the optics and move him away from the situation so it doesn't continue to be a negative talking point because the left is going to continue that. Again, when all you have is Trump is bad, Trump is bad, Trump is bad, and that's all you have, you're lost.
Yeah, Orange Man Handbomb is just selling like hotcakes right now.
Yeah.
That's right. By the way, before we let Roger go in, that's right. Are you still not over 2016? Can you just not stop talking about Trump even on issues that he's not connected to? Are Rob Reiner and Mark Hamill your personal heroes? Well, we have the thing. Do you have to go into the bathroom 16 times a day to jerk off to how bad Donald Trump is? Yes, I have just the thing for you. It's called Orange Man Bad Handball. That's right. Just go into the bathroom. You don't have to worry about blisters down there and chafing and what, because Orange Man Handball has got that nice, slick feel. It lubricates you every single time. And if you order today, you will also get Orange Man tissue and muscle rub to help you deal with that suspicious case of tendonitis that you've got and you don't want to reveal to your doctor why it is you got it. So just remember to call up our operators and scream really loudly into the phone, Orange Man Bad, to get your copy, to get your first bottle of Orange Man Bad Handball and Orange Man Bad Deep Tissue Rub today. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Roger.
Neroke, real quick, isn't it true that they get a 10% discount if they say Neroke said it'll be huge?
Oh, that's
Well, it is huge, but yeah. Anyway, Roger, you're up.
all right. Now, when it comes to this stuff, I mean, I don't really like start talking. I guess you could say I'm not biased towards like political parties and stuff. Like I'm an independent voter for a reason. So when I look at this stuff, I look at it from the point of view of an independent voter, and I don't like take into consideration what Republicans think or Democrats think. I look at freaking things that are in front of me. And this first one that you've got here, man, that one really stands out to me because Mike Waltz, okay, I could say, yeah, he's an idiot and he screwed up because he did, okay, but something happened there too, and I don't know if it was intentional or if it was maybe a hack or anything, but this was done, and the guy who was involved with it was Jeffrey Goldberg. He was a freaking reporter from the Atlantic. Now, for me, the first thing I'd ask is, what is this guy doing communicating to a freaking reporter from the Atlantic? That'd be my first thing I'd ask. And then the second thing would be, how did this guy end up inside of that freaking thing? Now, it's either he was accidentally put on there, like Angel said, or he was added to the conversation on accident or on purpose. But the thing that really stands out to me about this is the fact that it was an attack that was going to be taking place against the Yemens. And the thing about Yemen, and I still hold to this, I think that freaking that's the reason why the United States funds freaking Saudi Arabia, is because Saudi Arabia sends out attacks on Yemen for the United States and for Israel. And my personal belief is because um, Israel knows what the truth is. If you read in the Bible, you'll find out that a lot, Israel was actually the northern part, and Judea was the southern part. And it was said that when they were taken into captivity by the Babylonians, that the people of Judea fled to the south. They didn't get taken into captivity. It was the people of Israel that got taken into captivity. And they know that the Yemen are actually the real freaking Jewish uh, people that are actually the true Jewish people. You know what I mean? And they've been doing this forever. It just, for me, I know that that's a real big issue that a lot of people freaking know is going on there, and they just kind of overlook it, and they don't realize that that's the reason why we give money to Saudi Arabia when it comes to that stuff, because of that fact. And it's usually perpetuated by Israel who's doing that. Now, this is a very touchy subject, and I find it interesting that this has happened and that it drew so much attention. You know what I mean? So for me, I'm thinking that freaking this information was brought to this guy's attention, and he freaking had somebody hack into that freaking account and was able to get into that group, and that's how it happened. That's my personal thought on it. Because it's a really really hot topic for people who are interested in that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but Signal is like Telegram. You don't have to hack into it. All you need is a link
Yeah.
to like go. It's like Skype. They send you a Skype link to go into that chat area. You're in. It's not like Rumble here where you have to be, allowed by the person hosting, like Neroke, for example.
Mhm.
You just click on the link and you're in there. So somebody send them that link
Yeah.
to the Goldberg guy. Now they can trace back, well, who sent it to him
All right.
and why did they send it to him and where this communication gone in the past, and then started putting the dots together. Wait a second, are these people, pro America, or are they trying to hurt us here? What the hell's going on?
We'll see.
And
The
that's how
thing,
you build. That's how you build that. That connecting the dot.
I don't see him being networked to him anyhow as being a freaking reporter from the Atlantic. Why would freaking this guy even be connected to him on a social media site? That's the first thing that I would be looking at right there when it comes to that stuff. So that's what really does stand out to me on that one. When it comes to that, like nothing about that story actually adds up when you look at it. And another thing too, this is real stupid, and everybody, not just him, should be held accountable for this. Like that kind of conversation should not be freaking in a freaking chat on Signal. That's
I
highly
agree on that.
classified.
Yeah.
That's highly classified information that shouldn't have been even there.
They
So
should have their own platform for government stuff like that. Like that should not be on a platform like Signal, Skype, or anything like this,
yeah,
ever. I mean, it
yeah,
should be like a government platform just for them, where no civilian or outsider can get in unless is allowed by the country's heads. Like the people that are putting the call together. Period. That's it.
yep. And with NPR and PBS, the only thing I can say about that is it's about time.
Yeah.
I hate fucking Big Bird. I thought he was a freaking chump. If I was able to get my hands on him, I'd wring his neck. Okay.
I didn't hate Big Bird. I thought Big Bird was like the biggest pothead in the world. He's always like, "Hey guys."
Big Bird is a cultist that belongs to Zeech from Warhammer 40K.
Bert
See,
and Ernie.
I didn't have much to have about NPR or PBS. 'Cause I never really watched them, to be honest. I haven't watched PBS since I was a child. I don't watch Nova
Mhm.
since they started reporting more about UFOs and stuff than actual like credible nature stuff. I love the UFO topic. I talk about it all the time. I just don't want to see that stuff on PBS or
All
Nova.
right.
I think that should be more nature oriented, more
Uh,
uh, not sci-fi ish or conspiracy like that. But that's where the ratings are. Look at the History Channel. It's not about history; it's about ancient aliens and shit that we can't prove.
yeah. Well, what gets me about those too is they need to cut out this freaking beer advertisements on freaking documentaries.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
bullshit. Like that back in the day when we were growing up, you didn't see freaking beer commercials on a freaking
No, not at
documentary.
all.
Um, and one thing too, I want to mention about Dr. Fauci that
They won't let me write Orange Man Bad Handbum on PBS. That's the reason why I want them canceled.
now Dr. Fauci, something that you guys probably don't think about, but this is something that really crossed my mind when I first heard this shit about the freaking pardons. Okay, now the thing about pardons is there has to be a crime involved before freaking you can have a pardon for anybody. So if anybody brought charges up against Dr. Fauci, I don't see any reason why they couldn't prosecute him because in order for a person to be freaking pardoned from something, he had to have committed a crime in the first place. You see what I mean?
Well, that's where the controversy is, though, Roger. They
Mhm.
gave him a preemptive pardon, meaning anything he did within that time period, he is not liable to be found guilty or be brought up with charges are like they
I,
did with Hunter and others. Now, to me, that's a problem because that's not only saying that they're guilty of something.
no, that's unconstitutional too.
That it should be unconstitutional. If it isn't, it should be. But
Mhm.
on top of that, now you're saying, wait a second, what if we found out that Hunter or Fauci literally took a gun and blew somebody's brains out during those 10 years, and that family has all the evidence in the world, including DNA, video, confessions, everything, but now they can't bring that person to like serve time or to justice because of a preemptive pardon. That
I,
is a major problem
I
because
don't,
that
I
covers
don't,
those years.
I doubt a preemptive pardon will
It
ever freaking
does.
stand up in court.
That's the no, but it does. That's the
No,
problem, Roger.
nobody's ever done it, and like,
That I that That's the
You
thing.
know,
Nobody's ever done it. So how do you challenge it?
you
Nobody
challenge it,
knows.
it gets challenged through the Supreme Court. You know what I
And then
mean?
it'll go to a liberal judge that'll, not
No,
even let it go even further. And it'll
dude.
take
The
years over the years,
conservatives, the
brother.
conservatives right now control pretty much all of the freaking offices or the
Y-
branches.
Yeah, but
So
you
if
forget one. You forget one thing though. The judges, when Obama and Biden were presidents, they literally like put hundreds and hundreds of activist judges in place for this kind of shit right now.
I'm talking
Oh,
Supreme
Trump,
Court,
Trump is going through it. What do you think all these charges were with Trump and all these judges? These were all activist judges. Every
no,
single one of them. They all had an agenda.
this
They
is
all
so.
had their. They were
I
Du Bois.
guarantee you,
That's it.
that freaking when that if this is brought up according to with the Supreme Court, it will be overturned. There is no freaking way a preemptive freaking pardon is going to hold up on constitutional law. That is, you see, all the government or branches of government has plenary powers, but they can't freaking use plenary powers for something that's preemptive. Okay, it's just like whenever they do these preemptive wars. Okay, that's bullshit. That's never the way freaking war is handled. It's always the last result. You don't go in and do something preemptive when it comes to war. And that's the kind of mentality people have these days where they can get away with that shit, and that's not how it works. Okay?
Well, that's how 9/11 happened. What do you think? The towers took themselves down? No, that was an inside job, folks, and it was done on purpose to get us into wars.
You know, but that's not preemptive.
Well,
you
it's
know,
preemptive enough when they knew it was going to happen, and it happened.
well, you get what I'm saying, though, right? I mean,
No, yeah, I understand where you're going at.
so I mean, like, I personally don't think that it would stand up in court. They need to take that to the Supreme Court and do that. I still say to this day that they can't freaking he can't freaking be pardoned for a crime that he wasn't charged with yet. So um, that's like me saying you're pardoned for something that you're going to do. You know, that's nonsense.
Here's the problem though with taking everything to the Supreme Court, though, Roger, is at some point you're gonna like overload the Supreme Court because they're
That's
literally gonna take everything.
that's what they
Uh,
need to do.
yeah, but here's the.
That's our only branch of government where the
I
people
understand
have
that,
the
but the
right to
problem is
say something.
the left is going to do this to everything that Trump does,
Mhm.
every single agenda that is, we think is justified, like taking these people into custody and putting them in prison, and doing things like to people that are pardoned when they should be fined or sent to prison, like Fauci. They're
Well,
always going to boggle down the Supreme Court with appeals and all
that's what
kinds of
needs to
crap.
be done. That's how government is supposed to work in the
I
United States.
understand that, but the
Like
problem is
this is a
it
part of
takes
government.
years for
This is
all
a
this
part
to
of
go
government.
away.
This is a part of the government process.
I
Okay,
understand that,
and
but it
like
takes years for all this to go
the
through the Supreme Court, though,
one of
Roger.
one,
That's what I'm trying to
that,
get
that
at.
One person at a time,
hold
please.
up. That's the way things are supposed to work here in the United States. Okay, here in the United States, when you have a grievance, you take it to the courts, and it eventually will make it to the Supreme Court to be resolved if it's needed. Okay, once the Supreme Court interprets the law and decides if it's freaking legitimate or not, then freaking they interpret it and they say this is the way it needs to be. They interpret the law, and then freaking it's up to Congress if they're going to pass laws or if they're going to freaking not pass laws. Because the Supreme Court interprets the law, the Congress freaking creates laws, the executive branch freaking enforces laws. Now, this is how the Constitution works. Okay, so when you see people going to court and filing charges or having a grievance, that is something that's we have a constitutional right to do. We have a right to be sue and be sued. And when you give that up because you think that it's going to bog the court systems down, you're actually doing an injustice. to the
No, no,
freaking
don't
to
get
the
don't get it twisted. I'm not saying it's wrong for them to do it. I'm just saying at some point it's going to continually boggle them down to where they're not going to give a shit, and that's the
well,
problem.
they need to be bogged down. See, people haven't been doing this stuff for a long time, and it's the government has become lazy. Okay, the Supreme Court should be
I
making
agree.
decisions every single day. You should always hear the Supreme Court saying this has just been decided. This has just been. You should hear that every day because they should be doing their job. Okay, but you're not. You're not hearing that because people have become lazy. Okay. You should hear every day, this is what Congress is working on. This is the bills they passed. This is the bills they didn't pass. You should hear that every day, but you don't hear it. And the reason for that is because they've become lazy. You know, that's my whole point on it. So,
Yeah, no arguments here on that part.
you know,
Okay, are we finally? Well, I won't say finally because I was expecting this one to go long. I think we're finally done on this particular section.
well, Diddy's
Yeah,
next. So, yeah,
yeah.
we need to talk about that baby oil too.
Oh yeah,
I'm sick of people not mentioning the baby oil.
it's Diddy's night. Oh, what a night!
It's legitimate. It's legitimate, I tell you. Where did it come from? They have a
Mm.
receipt. They've got a receipt that specifically says Costco.
Costco denies that. They say they don't.
Exactly.
They don't ship baby oil in that kind of amount. Well, I don't know, but if somebody gives you $1 million and says, "I want $1 million worth of baby oil,"
Costco does
somewhere,
everything.
yeah,
Costco does a lot of bulk, if you know what I'm saying. And
oh
it's
yeah,
like it doesn't
Costco
really
figure it
matter
out.
where. Yeah.
They'll figure this shit out.
Well, I
Okay,
mean,
so
come on, seriously.
Can't wait
You
for that
know
topic.
better, dude. You know better. It's like
Can't wait for
freaking.
that topic. Go ahead, Neroke. I can't wait for
okay, well, maybe at some point, Jury, because he has rejected the plea deal. This is going to be. I mean, which means they're going to have to pull a Ghislaine Maxwell, or they're going to have to pull an Epstein on him. Because I think P Diddy has figured out that the only way he's gonna be able to survive this is if he starts naming names. Hollywood specifically went kind of like P Diddy was to Hollywood what Epstein was to New York. That appears to be the situation here. Uh, I'm not going to get into my personal opinions. I personally never liked P Diddy myself. Um, he seemed to be a guy who was really insecure and immature. And granted, he wasn't the. I mean, like literally. I mean, I would have hated to have been an up and coming rap artist in the '90s and trying to get anywhere because I mean you had to choose between P. Diddy, who is a pervert and a thug, and Suge Knight, who was
Suge Knight.
Suge
That's not.
Knight.
Yeah, it's not
Suge Knight.
Suge. Suge Knight, like Sugar Bear. Suge Knight.
Suge Knight. Yeah, and so Suge Knight. I mean, at least Suge Knight was a thug, but I mean, at least he wasn't a
Not your
fucking
gay.
degenerate, right?
Actually, he wasn't a thug per se. In fact, little you guys might not know this, but guess who was one of his best friends for many years?
I don't know. I don't follow music,
Oh,
so
well, no, no, no. They has nothing to do with music. John F. Kennedy Jr.
interesting.
Not only was he one of his best friends, I'm telling you, like they were like blood brothers. They went to school together. They played football together. I have pictures of Suge Knight, JFK Jr. playing football, flag football at the Kennedy estate. Okay, remember Suge Knight was a football player before he was a rap mogul.
Yeah, he was a big guy. But
Yeah.
anyway, getting back. Uh two possibilities here, and this has to play into come into play. P. Diddy has decided to go to trial because, I mean, I suspect that if he had just taken the plea, that he would have been memory hold and disappeared and then suicided. Now, if they attempt to bump him off, if they attempt to Epstein him like they did, well, with Epstein, you know, everybody else who was associated with him is now also in panic mode. There's also the issue of him and underage kids as well. That was the same thing. Same thing went with Epstein. There's also like underage talents that were in his label that also had some, also potentially have some stories attached to him as well. Again, right? I never really, and when it comes to music performers, when it comes to music, and I've actually said this to a, because I mean, I've done union work on stage sets that have come into the city. The couple of performers that I have run into, it's like my view on music is that I either like the music or I don't like the music. I really don't pay very much attention to who the artist is or what their background is. And I specifically don't pay attention to their cultural or political fucking opinions, because it's been my experience. Most fucking musicians aren't exactly noted for their critical thinking skills. Yeah, sorry, most of them ain't. Even ones that do, like John Lennon, when you start peeling away the layers, it turns out that they weren't particularly good human being either. So yeah,
awful. I mean, dude, you're like so straight up calling them like ignorant asses and shit.
Oh yeah, most musicians, and trust me, working in the arts field, the most single, self-absorbed, narcissistic, self-centered individual performers that I have encountered have been the musicians.
Yeah.
Everyone talks about how bad the actors are. Oh no, man, the actors are a pleasure to deal with, as opposed to some of the musicians. The most single, self-centered, narcissistic individual that I ever encountered was on this one film set I worked on. And she was a singer who, now that I'm 18 years removed from that particular film production, am happy to announce that I found photos of her a couple years ago, and I'm happy to say that the wall has definitely caught up to her, although it didn't catch up to her as much as it would have liked to. But I mean, yeah, not overly impressed. This is clearly a strategic move on the part of P. Diddy. Probably as much survival as it is the fact that he actually has got the financial resources to fight this. Here's the thing, though, even if he is found not guilty, I mean, he's still got all of these lawsuits to deal with, and it wouldn't surprise me if he pulled a Michael Jackson and immediately, which is exactly what happened, by the way, with Michael Jackson. He was found not guilty. He was hustled out of a courthouse and he was flown to Dubai like literally the same day. Right? Don't be surprised if that is what happens with P. Diddy if he is found not guilty. There is a possibility he will be found not guilty. Now, the baby oil thing is goddamn incriminating. He should have used Orange Man Bad Handball. Sorry, Orange Man Bad Handball, but he didn't. Again, I was not particularly impressed with Diddy as a person. I would like to see, again, just like Fauci, I'd like to see some of the individuals around him fall. I especially like to see Jennifer Lopez be uncomfortable because, like I said, I was talking about how self-centered and narcissistic singers were. everything that I've heard about Jennifer Lopez tells me that she is right in there, and she probably knew about some of the stuff that P. Diddy was doing, which is, by the way, why she has been dead silent and has tried to distance herself from him as much as possible. But that's really all I got to say on that guy, because I really don't. I mean, again, right, yet another pedophile. And that seems to be the underlying tone of this particular show tonight. And with that, I am going to turn it over to Angel.
I think I'm the only person on the call here who's actually met Jennifer Lopez. I met her back in '96. She had just, I think, gotten the Selena movie at the time. It was like right around that time. There was a premiere here in Miami for the movie The Pest with John Leguizamo, and she was there. And we got to, interact with her and John, and it was pretty interesting. John was very nice at the time. He signed a poster for me and everything.
Yeah, he's got full blown TDS now,
Oh,
by the
completely.
way.
Yeah, he's a complete moron now. But back then, he was really nice. I'm not gonna lie and say he was bad with me. I'm being honest. He was nice. Signed a poster. I got her to sign a Planet Hollywood. You remember that menu, which was really interesting. But the funny thing is, when we went up to Jennifer Lopez at Planet Hollywood after the premiere, and the reason I was even invited to the after party is a completely different story. But I had a funny thing that happened with John in the media, and we got tickets. We got to kick it with them after. It was a whole fun experience. But when I approached Jennifer for autographs, speaking of people in music that are assholes, she was the rudest, nastiest person there, and she was not even that famous. She was just fresh out of being a fly girl in Living Color. So it wasn't like she was the most famous person. And I think she had just got tapped to be Selena in the movie. So it's not like we're dealing with like, oh my God, mega superstar, right? But her head was like bigger than her body. Now the reason she signed her the menu was because John Leguizamo came over to where me and my friends were, and there he was like, "Hey guys, glad you made it." Again, really nice to us. And one of my friends was like, "Yeah, we went up to Jennifer Lopez to get her autograph, and she was, man, she's a bitch. She was just horrible." And he's like, "Really, Jennifer?" And he goes, "Come on, guys." And he literally like walked us over. I'm not kidding. He walked us over to Jennifer. Said, "Hey, these are my guys. They were cool with Telemundo and Univision. They were out there earlier, and these are cool guys. Would you sign an autograph?" She picked up the menus that she literally like threw on the table and wouldn't sign. And she goes, "Of course, they're your buddies." And she signed away. So I have a menu signed by her, poster signed by him. And I'm trying to get rid of it. Nobody wants to buy it now because it's been decades. But now nobody cares because now we know who they are. One has TDS, the other one is involved with the Diddy fiasco. And I tell you this, you want to talk about Suge Knight? Suge Knight
P.
exposed all this.
Diddler. P. Diddler.
No, the diddler, the diddler, the Diddy files, as I like to call this, go back decades. Okay, Suge Knight at one point was about to expose this in 1998. Okay, he was exposing this because he had come into contact with people that had in their possession sex videos from the Diddy freak-offs, including Jennifer Lopez having multiple sexual activities with multiple men, which included R. Kelly, and one of the videos included children. Okay, I'm talking about underage girls in one of the videos, and Jennifer Lopez, Diddy, and other people that were celebrity big time at that time were involved. And Suge Knight was putting this stuff out. And guess what happened to Suge Knight right after he started making this claim that he was putting this stuff out? Take a wild guess. Anybody? Anybody?
He started getting prosecuted.
No. That would be too easy. They're already doing that. No, what happened was Suge Knight was invited out of the blue by Dr. Dre to go visit a shooting of a video so they can make peace. Suge was like, "Hey, that's cool. I want to make peace with y'all because I don't want to keep fighting. We were getting kind of old." And he went in order to, do some peace talk with Dre, and all these people. And they were waiting for him with pistols, and they started pistol whipping him and beating him up. So he ran from the scene like any normal human being. I don't care how big you are. Somebody is in a group and you're by yourself and they're trying to pistol whip you, you run. Don't try to be a tough guy. Run. Suge ran, jumped in his car or his truck, and a bunch of these idiots got in the way of him when he's trying to leave the situation. One of them gets ran over, becomes quadriplegic. That's his problem. He should have instead in front of a moving truck. You idiot. He wasn't trying to run you over. He's trying to get away from you with a gun. Another one got ran over and died. So they blamed Suge Knight and sent him to prison for murder. But the reality is, guess what? He was trying to protect his own life. And they put him in jail for murder? All this is on video. They came after him. He jumps in his truck. They literally like block him from leaving with guns pointing at him. And somehow he ends up in prison. Now, the reason I bring this up is because this entire time, Dre, and 50 are not going at Diddy, right? And I've been saying this on my own for a while now. The reason they're throwing Diddy under the bus is because Dre, 50, and M are the next ones that are doing this same kind of activities. Okay, they're the ones going to be taking over. Diddy was a liability. They had to get rid of him, and this is the way they're doing it. Will he be Epstein? Possibly, but there's no way in hell that Diddy's ever going to come out of prison. That is just not going to happen. In fact, recently, a new charge just came up a couple of days ago. I don't know if you saw this, Neroke, where one of Diddy's son, I'm not sure if it's King Combs or Justin Combs or one of his nasty sons that he has, was in court, walked out of court when they brought up the new allegation of one of the girls that was underage at one of these freak offs. And she made the claim that not only was this son that lured her into the event, but that he molested her, raped her, and she had audio proving the whole thing because she recorded it. And that just hit the World Wide Web, not including all the stuff that they have on video, which they took into their possession. Now, why is this relevant? Because we're talking about a big case here, right? But we haven't seen any of the proof. But we have to understand optics on this thing. When this raid happened, it was under Joe Biden, right? That's when they took Diddy in. Follow my lead here. Why did they do this? To destroy the evidence. So there's very little left. So when the shit hits the fan, where's the proof? There's no pudding, right? And that's why it happened during that time. He's a sacrificial lamb. They didn't really destroy the evidence. They just removed it from the people that are going to make him have this exposed, which would have probably been Trump and this administration. So now they got to dig for all this evidence, which is probably mostly hidden somewhere and God knows where, and probably a lot of it was destroyed. In fact, Diddy at one point was caught on the phone in prison telling one of his kids, make sure such and such thing is taken care of. You know what I'm talking about? Hint, hint, wink, wink. Huh? And that was recorded, by the way. And he's kind of telling them what to get rid of, and the son is like, "What? Oh, yeah, oh, okay, yeah, I understand, Daddy. I know what you're talking about." What is he talking about exactly? What is he has to take care of there? You know, but these things are going to fix themselves out. But this new charge, if legitimate, if the audio is correct, and there's video of other things that are out there, including the freak off videos, which we could go back to Suge Knight in the 90s, okay? And he has copies of this. In fact, Suge Knight's son, Suge Jr., has copies of that video, and he is making claims of putting it out there. And this is where this is going to get really fun and interesting. And I've hated Diddy for decades. I never liked the guy. I always suspected he was behind Tupac's first attempted murder in '95 or '94. And I always thought that he was responsible for the '96 shooting financially, not that he was in the car. As I've been saying for a long time, I do think Orlando Anderson and Keefe D and all these other players were in the car, including some other gangbangers. And I do believe that because I heard years and years ago about Orlando Anderson and Keefe D before they even came out talking about it. I was told this information from people that worked at Death Row Records. They were friends of mine, producers. They were friends of mine who told me directly who shot Tupac. Orlando Anderson had the gun. Everybody knew it. In fact, Gaddafi of the Outlaws was the one that saw his face. He told everybody that it was Orlando Anderson. So everybody knows he was the shooter. That's not a secret. It's never been a secret. Now people are starting to pay and they're starting to connect Diddy. And the reason that Diddy and Pac had their fallout is because Pac also found out about the freakouts. He was not down with the whole homosexual thing going on. That wasn't who he was. He didn't want to be involved with them. And Puffy or Diddy or whatever he called himself back then was in love with Tupac. He literally wanted to either F him in the A or he wanted to be him. That's how like obsessed he was with Tupac. And when Tupac rejected him, that's why Tupac got shot in the Quad Studios in New York. That's why the retaliation happened. Now all the fingers are being pointed out.
When you say F to the
stuff
A,
that I've known for over 27 years are finally being revealed. Thank God, because I've been a fan since 1990 of Tupac, and I want that solved. And it's all part of what's happening with Diddy now. Those freakouts are nothing new. They've been going on for a long time. Diddy has been made a sacrificial lamb because the people involved, like you said in Roki, are mostly from Hollywood. They don't want their names out there, like the Tom Hanks and all these people that are in those videos. Who was one of Diddy's favorites? Oh, yeah, Leonardo DiCaprio, right? He was at a lot of those parties.
What were you
banging
saying?
A lot of underage girls.
I didn't understand that part when you said F of A.
Justin Bieber. I've seen some of the videos. Odell Beckham Jr., the football player the Dolphins released when the video came out of him receiving fellatio from Justin Bieber.
He took his headphones off.
Once they saw that, they were like, yeah, we gotta like that Odell Beckham, we gotta get him out of here. Bad PR, right? You don't just overlook Justin Bieber giving this guy a blowjob at a nightclub while he's getting pounded in the ass by Tyler Song, another singer. His name's actually Tyler Song, by the way. And he's a singer, I figure. And he's literally pounding Odell Beckham in the ass while Justin Bieber's going down on him. You just don't overlook that if you're a football team and you want to have some integrity. So the Dolphins did away with Odell Beckham Jr. And he was supposed to be a quote-unquote superstar when they signed him. In fact, just the year before, they gave him an extension for $100 million. And once that video came out, gone. Because in the NFL, one thing that's great is no contract is secure. If they want to cut you, you lose your money. That's it.
And you're up.
No, I'm not. I mean, he pretty much covered it all, I guess. Other than the fact that he never said a damn thing about the freaking oil whatsoever.
And well, you want to talk about the oil because I know you do because you're the one going on about it.
What? I was trying to ask him to elaborate when he said F to the A.
Can you guys hear me?
We heard you, but you...
Okay, I cut out after that. I know what happened. My internet had a hiccup. When I left off where the F and the A.
Yeah, no, I mean, I was like asking you to elaborate a little bit more on what you were saying when he was effing the A.
Okay, who was I said was after the A?
Never,
What was
never mind. It was a long time ago. It was like,
okay?
it was like way back when I was like,
Well,
I
I
knew
kept thinking,
something was up because like for some reason you just kept talking and nobody could like ask you a question. You said some interesting stuff that was.
because you hear it at least in the feed because my computer like had some kind
Yeah,
of weird hiccup.
I could hear you. I don't know for sure
Okay,
about the.
well, at the end of the day, the only person that's going to end up getting F in the A long term is going to be Diddy.
Yeah,
Because like I was saying, I don't know if you got this part. I was trying to get to this point. Everything that's happening to him, it's an elaborate thing that happened because they're trying to destroy all the evidence. I don't know if you got that part.
yeah, we got that part. I
Okay,
did. Yeah.
okay. And the reason that is crucial to this is because if you destroy evidence, you have nothing. But there's now the thing in court with his son. I don't know if you got that part where there's new evidence that just
Mhm.
showed up, and his son got up and left the courtroom. He stormed out of there because he's like shocked. Right? There's new evidence, and when that stuff starts coming out, that's going to really hurt him. Now, like I said, I've known about this for decades that this stuff is going on. I don't know if you heard about the Tupac part, why
Yeah.
they had their fallout. All that is legit. You can look that up. I'm not making any of that stuff up. Diddy effed a lot of his artists in the including
See, there you go. That's what I was saying.
yeah, including well, that means fucked in the ass.
Well, I
Okay,
didn't mean that. I was like,
yeah.
when
No, I'm talking about literally he fucked him in the
well,
ass, and monetarily he fucked him in the ass.
that's
Okay,
what I was
both
getting at.
ways.
Okay, all right.
All
So,
right.
do you have anything else to add, Roger, or can we move on to the next topic?
With Diddy, the thing about it is you got to understand too that freaking he was a snake in the grass as well. Like a lot of the
They
dealings
all
that,
are. They all are, Roger.
well, especially him, he did a lot of things in the background, freaking, and he didn't care if freaking they were his friends or not. He was going to freaking get what he wanted. And it didn't matter who got, if you got in the way and you were his friend, freaking, you got eliminated. And that was how he did things. He was like
Because
a,
they gave him all the power, and that's what I was getting at. He had all the
Mhm.
power, and now they took it away. And the reason that you see an Eminem, 15, Dre, and all these people going at him is because they're the ones that are taking over what he was doing. And I'm telling you right now, I could even point you to videos that show how suspect 50 Cent is, and he's going hard at Diddy for a reason. When you want to replace somebody, you usually go at them in the way he's doing it. Uh, and Tupac went at Diddy hard and said, "Look, I don't trust this guy," and he tried to get Biggie away from him, and that's why Tupac got killed. And I'm
Mhm.
just happy that justice might be served here, and Diddy might end up in prison for the rest of his life, where he belongs. Or if he ends up actually legitimately getting Epstein, hey, if he's legitimately gone from the earth, even better. Another
Mhm.
demon away from the planet.
Yeah, that's all I basically have to say because
Yeah.
he is he was always that way. He was a cockroach. He's the one that scurried around in the corner behind everybody's back. He was the guy that would come up behind you and stab you in the back rather than face you face to face alone.
Yeah, but he'll stab you with his penis. That's
After he doses you, of course.
yeah.
That's all I got.
And then he'll tell you, take that, take that, take that. That was the saying, by the way.
Neroke, it's your turn.
All right. Well, like I say, when it comes to musicians and whatnot, I don't know. I mean, I get that some people are just add this. They could talk about this for a while. I really, again, when it comes to musicians, I really don't care. I either like their music or they don't, which is really weird because I can give you a lot of background on some of the directors and performers from movies, but I mean, again, right? I just I either like the stuff they do or I don't like the stuff they do. I don't necessarily get into usually, although there have been some exceptions. usually don't get into the details about whether I liked them personally or not.
Yeah, but that's
Although I
because
have made
you're older now,
exceptions.
though. You're
Yeah.
older now. When you were a kid, I'm sure there was that artist, musician, or whatever that you were like, I want to know more. You know, that's kid stuff. When I was a kid, that's why I looked up to Tupac because I was a kid. You know, those my idols growing up. Now as an adult, the new generation of singers, and I don't follow them. I don't care.
Well, I mean, I'll be straight up with you. Back when I was a teenager, man, the situation I was in as a teenager just sucked rocks big time. So I was more concerned with just basically making sure that I was sane more than anything else. I mean, it was just, I mean, I stopped using at 18. But I mean, basically, that period between when I was about 10 and when I was 18 was just it. Most of it just sucked, right? So I'd rather not get into too much about what happened in that period of time for me. But anyway, let's move on to the next topic here because this one is very, very interesting. And if you're looking at the new cover photo that I just put up here, what happened
Yeah, that's funny.
what happened with this? So what happened here with this particular photo? Well, this actually ties. This probably is this. This has an indirect tie-in with what happened with Carmelo Anthony. Now, what happened with Carmelo Anthony is that you had a bunch of race baiters that got in and started race baiting over an individual who was quite clearly guilty. The dad of the murder victim in this particular case made a serious attempt to try to reach out and try to get the racial rhetoric to die down, and they refused to do it. And the amount of money that was generated, and it turns out that the dad himself, that the father of Carmelo Anthony, is making six figures, and he was obviously not a particularly good human being because his son turned out to be an absolute thug. But a lot of what happened with Carmelo Anthony was because of a quote unquote fuck white people. Now, what ended up happening with this particular woman, I'm trying to remember what the hell her name is again. She was in the park with her son, and there was this kid, and he took some stuff out of her bag, and the mother caught the kid, went over, was really pissed, and started swearing at him, and she used the N-word. The N-word, by the way, is nigger. I really don't give a shit if I get fucking canceled or not. Now, hold on a second.
How dare you say the nigger word?
Yeah, how dare I say it? Nigger, 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 nigger. Anyway, so what?
If you're in China, if you were in China, that's like your ums and ahs. By the way, I don't know if you knew that.
All right. So what ended up happening is that there was a black man in the park, and he caught her using that word, confronted her on it, and she got really obnoxious towards him or whatever. I don't think she gave. I haven't seen the video, so I don't know whether she gave him the middle finger or not.
Oh, she did.
But she did.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, it was. Anyway, what ended up happening is, oh yeah, I'm going to expose you on the internet. So that's what he did, and turns out that the black man who caught this mother using the N-word is a convicted sex offender hanging out at a kid's park by himself. So immediately what was going on here is, whoa, wait a second. You're a convicted sex offender. You have no kids, and you're hanging out at a kid's park. Why? But that didn't matter to a lot of the African American community, who immediately started trying to dox and cancel this mother. The only problem is that they chose, in this particular case, to side with a sex offender and probably a pedophile rather than the mother who was trying to protect her son. Yeah. Oops.
Oh, Neroke gets even deeper than that, though.
Oh, it
Uh,
does. Oh, it gets a whole lot deeper than that.
what did you hear
So,
the bombshell I'm going to drop when it's my turn?
yeah, well, I am actually looking for. I'm looking forward to it, man. So yeah, the give send go like just took off like hotcakes. And again, I think a lot of this has to do with what happened with Carmelo Anthony, but the mother got unprecedented amount of support. The woke crowd on TikTok and whatever is doing everything they can to try to shame, and they literally tried to shame give send go into taking this away. And of course, give send go doesn't do shit like that. That's GoFundMe, which, by the way, have you noticed has lost a lot of its legitimacy since the trucker convoy. That's the reason why. But I mean, again, right, I think what's happened here is that white guilt people, and again, Carmelo Anthony was, I think, the one that kind of loaded and cocked the trigger. And the fact that the now a portion of the African American community decided to go and support a fucking pedophile versus a mother attempting to protect her child, that was the straw that broke the camel's back on this. I suspect you're going to be seeing a whole lot of rollback on this one. Good luck to the mother. The mother was just doing what she should have did. She was a little bit angry, but then again, there was a black kid stealing stuff from her fucking bag, right? And yeah, the black man who got this on film and recorded her and then tried to shame her and tried to get her fucking canceled is a convicted sex offender. And if you're an African American and you're listening to this, yeah, just stop and consider that. A significant portion of the African American community decided to support a fucking pedophile and sex offender versus a mom that was just a single mom, by the way, who was looking out for her kid. And by the way, this is coming from a guy in the manosphere, right? So, yeah, if you're hurt and offended because the community decided that enough was enough and that this was going to be the case where they were going to start to tell the African American community and these woke assholes to fuck off with all their bullshit, this was it. People have had it. And unfortunately, I really don't care about their feelings anymore. And I know Angel's been wanting to go off on this one. So, Angel, take it away.
Well, I'm going to give you this little bombshell that just came across my desk when this story broke. Something that has not fully blown up yet, but you're going to hear more and more in the next few days. This lady voted for the Liberals. She's a Democrat. She voted for Kamala Harris. They didn't go pick on one of the Trump supporters. They're literally like demifying and making someone to be a horrible racist human being, and she's one of theirs. Ironic, isn't it?
Oh, well, then look at what happened with Ethan Klein and Hassan Piker. Look what happened when Ethan Klein ran afoul, right? It's like they don't care, right?
They don't. But here's the thing: the way the video, and I've seen the video, the way it comes off is, yes, she's very pissed. She has the right to be pissed. Uh, she used the N word. That part is not in the video that I saw, but she did flip him the bird. She used the N word after he said, "You already used it," and then she started like saying, "Well, yeah, the N word." He started saying it again, but it wasn't the initial time that she supposedly used it. But here's the thing: in the liberal community, okay, and the very friendly African American community that are these liberals, the N-word is used regularly because they think it's okay and cool. They have like this street credibility where they believe they can say it because they're for the black guys and the black women, and they're part of the crowd with them. So they take very literally the word. And I've heard people that are Democrats use it like it's nothing. Most conservatives will say the N word. Most liberals will just say the word itself. And that's because we could go back to Hollywood and the music industry. They're all mostly what? Liberals. What do you hear in rap music? The N word constantly used. I know because I performed hip hop for a long time and I still make music. And I've said it in music. And I'm not a liberal, but even white rappers use it. Eminem has used it, and he's a liberal. Okay, so this is not foreign to people in the Democratic Party. So when she said it, I don't think she said it as "you N word little like racist." It just like you little piece of shit, like saying it like nonchalantly, like it's something that she's always said because it's always been okay for her to say, because probably most of her liberal black friends say it around her and they don't care, and her white friends don't care because their community just doesn't care unless as a conservative says it. Then they care. Then it's racist. Then it's all Trump's fault. That's what's happening here. They only care when it's not one of theirs. But here they bit themselves in the foot because they didn't do the due diligence. She's one of theirs, and they went after her and not after the nasty guy who's a sex offender, like you said, Neroke. I love it when they fuck up like that. It does. It brings a smile to my face, and it makes people like her understand that. Look, just because you vote a certain way doesn't mean you're immune, and you fuck around, you're gonna find out because people are gonna not understand facts, and they're just gonna take you to task. Eric Adams in New York, the mayor, he's going through the same shit. Why do you think a lot of people are saying, "Wait a second, is he now pro-Trump?" No, because they went after him when he wasn't playing along. See, unless you tote the line and you do exactly what they say, they abandon you and they destroy you. They go after you like if you were conservative. This woman was looked at as nothing more than a white woman saying the N word. Immediately, they grouped her with conservatives, with Trump, and they threw this video out there. They made her the criminal. They made the guy who recorded her the hero, and now we're finding out that he's actually a criminal. He's a convicted sex offender. She was protecting her child, and it turns out she's one of theirs. All the irony is beautiful. You can't write comedy like this. In fact, if Hollywood were to take their heads out of the ass and wrote a script based on this, it'd probably be better than that Snow White garbage they put out this year. Be a lot funnier, at least. With that, I'm done.
Hello?
Next. That'll be
Oh,
good.
okay.
Yeah, take it by the balls, baby.
Oh. Well, I mean, for me, I mean, this is actually kind of nonsense to me. I didn't even know what send, give, go was until I just Googled it. I mean, fuck is she getting a send, give, go freaking thing for people who are putting up a fundraiser for her because the poor woman was victimized? Like, I mean, it's important that she's out there defending her kid against a sex offender and shit. But come on, dude, freaking setting up a send, give, go.
Well, no, she wasn't defending her kid against a sex offender. She was defending her against another kid who stole from her kid. The sex offender just threw himself in there and said, "Hey, you called that kid the N word," and started recording it like it was his business.
But still, I mean, what's the deal with the send, give, go? I mean, and
Oh,
everybody's.
that's been around for a long time. J6
But I mean,
Daryl is
they,
on
they,
that.
they turn around, they're going to give her donations because she needs support or some shit. And I mean, you see this
Yeah,
shit
dude,
all over.
doxing, harassing is a legit thing. Yeah.
But still, I mean, it's turning into a trendy thing. I freaking farted in public, and everybody hates me. Send me money. You know what I mean? I've got to defend myself. I need the support, guys. Send me money on Send Give Go.
Give, send, go.
Send Give Go.
Close enough.
And I'm serious. I did fart in public. So everybody who's listening, if you can please send Give Go money to me because I need help, I would greatly appreciate that. Thank you very much. I love each and every one of you from my freaking liberal loving heart. I will never say the N-word, ladies and gentlemen, because I love each and every one of you.
And he did fart in public. We could smell it.
Yes, I did. I did.
Yeah, he did. It was legit.
I was going to name my freaking production company Dog Fart Productions, but I found out it was a porn company, so I can't do it. I'm going to have to come up with another cool name.
Well, I mean, you have the linguistic ninja in Mark to help you out with those things, right?
Well, don't get me started. He corrects me on everything, even the time zone. So it was like whenever you guys were having your conversation and he started talking to you about the pen, dude, I knew it was freaking over. I'm surprised you didn't fall asleep, okay?
Begging your pardon, sir, but you mispronounced that third word back now. You need to repronounce that word.
It was like he started describing his freaking pen and it got so out of hand. Angel just stopped talking. He was like, whatever, dude.
I mean, you gotta admit, I got him back with that one video where he's like, it makes no sense at all.
Yeah.
I mean, how you gonna talk about my grammar because I make one like silly mistake from your point of view, and then you're on video like speaking gibberish, like, and you're British, you should be able to speak the English language, sir. You motherfuckers invented it.
So I mean,
there's no excuse.
That's my Send Give Go message, ladies and gentlemen. I love each and every one of you from the bottom of my heart. Please send me money.
Roger farted. Send Give, send go to help his poor fifis.
That's right. I don't even know what a fifi is.
Con Fifi. Isn't that a Trump thing? Con Fifi.
I don't know. But I do like that picture that you're showing right there. That looks cool.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I'm out of the photos that from the stock that I uploaded. So now I'm just taking from background stock that I use for my shorter content, and I'm using that to fill in the space until we get to the last topic. So
is that a Canadian building?
I believe that's in Vancouver. That is that is the north end of the Granville, not the Granville Street Bridge, but the Seymour Bridge going into the west end. But I don't know for sure.
That is a cool looking building, though. We'll say that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They always come up with good stuff over there.
The weed is really good in Canada.
That's what I was getting ready to say. They're freaking they're like a bunch of potheads sitting around thinking of what they can build next. I mean, look at that building. It looks all dented and everything. That's good architecture.
Yeah.
It is, yeah.
Okay, so
I believe that is. I think that is Vancouver going into the West End. I don't remember. I know it's not the Granville Street Bridge. There's 3 bridges that run into Vancouver from the West End, from the main part of Vancouver, and I think this is the one that is. I believe it's the Burrard Street Bridge. That's what it's called. I believe this is the south end, the north end of the Burrard Street Bridge. But I could be wrong.
Well, that's all I gotta say. I'm not really big on stuff like that. With that.
There's a lot of cool buildings like that up in Canada, though, right, Neroke? There's a lot of cool infrastructure up there.
Yeah, they've got they've got. This is going to sound really strange, but the city I live in, Edmonton, where I live, they've actually got the tallest building in Western Canada. It's literally twice as tall, almost twice as tall as the next highest building. It's the highest building in Western Canada. It's like almost twice as tall as the next tallest building in the whole city, and it's part of the ice district. And if we got time, I'm going to make my playoff predictions for the next round because the first round of the playoffs ended tonight. But anyway, does anybody have anything more to say on the Give, Send, Go girl?
No, not really.
All right, so then I'm going to timestamp it, and we're going to move on to the last topic here, which is, oh, you're going to love this one. Because they're back, they are literally trying to blame, of all things, Gamergate for this. Okay, now there were, back when Gamergate was still around, there were several companies, Rock, Paper, Shotgun, which I don't even think exists anymore, Polygon, Kotaku, and I think there was a fourth one, but the big three were Kotaku, Polygon, Rock, Paper, Shotgun, and I think IGN was the other one. IGN is the only one that's still sort of up and running. Rock, Paper, Shotgun no longer exists. Kotaku has been reduced down to a shell. IGN kind of backed off a little bit on it, and Polygon somehow kept going until like literally this week. And then what happened is that the owner of Polygon sold it off to Valnet. Valnet immediately went out and basically gutted Polygon of most of its staff. And again, when you start talking about the writers at a lot of these gaming magazines, and this is something that Jeremy Hambling talks about quite frequently on his show. He starts talking about how it always seems to be as though a lot of these gaming reporters seem to be more along the lines of these frustrated political reporters who wanted to be writing about politics and not writing about gaming. And of course, right at the peak of Gamergate, Polygon, Kotaku, Rock, Paper, Shotgun, IGN, and some of the other PC Gamer to a limited degree, these particular outlets were like completely sucking up to Anita Sarkeesian and the woke crowd. And of course, right, like Anita Sarkeesian and Feminist Frequency disappeared. Rock, Paper, Shotgun, I don't even know if they still exist. Kotaku is just a shell of what it used to be. IGN has kind of backed off on it, but Polygon somehow kept going. But again, right, also Vice, a lot of those feminist websites as well, a lot of those have also disappeared. A lot of it was, again, get woke, go broke. And just as like we found out with Snow White, and that new movie that new Marvel movie, I saw it. It was actually pretty funny. I'm thinking, unfortunately, they've done so much damage to the MCU that I don't think they'll ever be able to fully recover. The whole thing. Thunderbolts, yeah, that's not actually a bad movie. It's actually better than most of your average Marvel.
Was it better
movies.
than the Captain America? The last
yes, one? It was. It was a couple of steps up from that movie. Actually, there was a little bit of wokeism in it, but it wasn't over the top like it was. Oh yeah, it is it wasn't as slick either, right? Like this was probably more along the lines of an upscale version of Mystery Men. There's a lot of funny. Some of it was kind of forced, but it wasn't there's actually some really decent scenes in that movie. But getting back to Polygon, yep, all of their woke staff got booted for damn good reason. I can't think of a better group of people to get booted, except maybe for all the woke staff over at Kotaku. Kotaku was just the absolute worst. Uh, you know, but what really blows my mind is, and this is like Alyssa Mercanti, who was the woke face of the second part of Gamergate, which was the Sweet Baby stuff. They tried to blame this on Gamergate. The only problem is that Gamergate ended a decade ago. So I don't know how Gamergate plays into any of this at all. Polygon did this to themselves just the same as Disney did this to themselves. So, yeah, no, zero fucks given about Polygon. Polygon was the last of the big. I think Polygon was the last of the big publications that was actively pro Gamergate. Or sorry, actually one of the opposition to Gamergate. It was the last of the publications that actually went under. They weren't as bad as Kotaku, but they definitely got what they deserved. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Angel.
Which is funny because I don't really play video games anymore. I haven't really been invested in video games since Halo 2 from the original Xbox. That goes back a whiles.
You're old as shit, dude.
Yeah, well, I'm an old man. I'm almost 50, dude. Right now.
That's what I'm saying. Shit.
I have a Dreamcast and a GameCube still.
We've had this conversation before.
Yeah.
Remember, you told me you had all the game systems that you have, and then you tried to tell me that you don't play none of them.
No, they just sit there.
You were dodging T Rexes on your way home to play those games too, man. That is freaking ancient.
Look, man, when I was a youngster, I used to walk through snow just to go to school. And when we went to school, guess who my teacher was? The Lord himself, Jesus.
You had to walk uphill both directions.
Yes. There were horses and carriages, not dunes and buggies or cars back then. In all seriousness, though, I'm not much of a gamer. I don't have much stake in this part of the conversation, so I don't really know much about this. I've kind of stayed away from all the controversy within the gaming community because there's only so much my brain can really hold in. So, with that said, I really don't have much to say other than, don't really care. I mean, video games or whatever, they're a distraction like everything else. You either like them or you don't like them. I don't really care about the politics involved in the background. That's neither my business. And at some point, I kind of tune out on a lot of these things. And, this whole thing with the gaming, I tuned out a long time ago. So, Roger, if you want to jump in, Neroke, take it away.
I guess.
All right, take us out, Roger. We're almost. Oh wait, no, I've got my NHL predictions to go into, but
that's going to be fun.
No, the thing that really gets me is like freaking. We're talking about Polygon, and like I haven't heard the name Vox in freaking years and shit. Now all of a sudden they're all over the place. Like freaking, you'll see people posting up freaking stuff on freaking Reddit and shit about this whole deal about Polygon getting gutted out and shit, and I'm like, who gives a shit, dude? Nobody's gave a damn about Polygon for freaking years.
For real.
I mean, it's true, and Vox, I barely remember anything about Vox. I knew they were out there. I knew, but
I will say this, so what really pisses me off, and not to get you off, sorry, but it's quick.
It's fine.
I have a Star Wars game which I never played. It's Battlefront or something like that. It's an old game which is on Windows Live. I never played it. They gave it to me as a gift because I'm a Star Wars fan, and I've had it sitting around for like 7 or 8 years. And I popped it into my computer a few days ago just to take a look at it, coincidentally. And I can't access it because it was on Windows Live, and that's obsolete. So now I have a game in perfect condition that I can't play. even if I wanted to. Thank you, Microsoft
Hmm.
penis. Anyway, I had to throw that in there.
You said Microsoft penis.
Yeah, that's what I call them.
Okay.
Let's just say Bill Gates. Yeah, we know some gates are growing up there, boy. Let me tell you.
But yeah, like the whole thing with Vox. I mean, and the thing of it is they're not really much of like a video game thing. They actually,
Are they manufacturers or were they marketing?
well, I mean, they had different stuff. I remember back they used to always talk about new technology like cars and stuff that like. You know how they got the new Teslas out and stuff. They would talk about that, and then like
Hmm.
advancements and new drones and stuff. Um, they did video games too, but not as much. I mean, not from what I remember at least.
Hmm.
Now, if you want to really get into something that's better than Polygon and all that, you know, because like gamer, that whole gamer thing, GamerGate, I thought they were kind of freaking bourgeois. You know what I mean? If you really want to get into like chicks that are on video games, go to Twitch, dude. They got the cool ones. They got
Oh
this
yeah.
chick. They got this chick on there that dresses up like freaking what's her face. Um, she played on where she was oh god, what was it?
Hmm.
She was one of those adventurers that went on freaking looking for lost freaking artifacts and shit. What do they call that movie?
Tomb Raider.
Tomb
Tomb
Raider.
Raider.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Lord Craft.
she'd dress up like Lara Croft,
Oh,
and
boner time. Yeah, baby.
she'd sit there with the microphone and she'd just lick on it with her
Mm,
tongue, so you'd hear,
yeah. Angelina Jolie played Laura
yeah,
Craft. Yeah, and she gave me
and
a lot of boners.
doing
A lot of boners.
ASMR and a microphone and everything. You know what I mean? And like freaking all this cool stuff. Like they don't have anything on these. Like these gamer girls don't have nothing on those girls. It's evolved into something better, dude. It's and you don't even have to go to freaking OnlyFans now. You can see it right there. You can see it right there on Twitch. You know, and then like a kick is just as
Kick is
horrible.
cool too. Yeah, yeah.
They got this one chick on there, and she freaking does work in a wood shop in her bikini with her boobs all sticking out and shit. And I'm like, yeah, dude, that is freaking cool. Like a micro bikini blonde chick freaking working on wood, man. And I'm talking real wood. I'm not talking metaphoric wood. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, that beats freaking gamer girls any day of
Oh,
the week.
can I jump in real quick? And it won't be game related, but it'll be really funny. And it has to do with a chick I met just like that.
Uh,
It'll be quick. Neroke, you're gonna laugh at this. When I was in the car business, about this was about I would say 9, 10 years ago. Okay, maybe 11 years ago. I worked at this one company, and one day I had this family come in, and they were like the most redneckish family you're ever gonna meet. I'm talking about like straight out the country. Like this is Paul, this is Ma, and this is the kids. Complete like full redneck, and I'm talking about hillbilly with like they were wearing the overalls, the whole 9 yards. Okay, the daughter comes in, no bra, wearing overalls. You can see her titties, like they were beautiful. And the funny thing is, she wasn't wearing a shirt. Okay, she was like ready to go to the beach. She had like a little like bikini thing under like her outfit, but it was like just barely covering the nipple. Okay, and then she had the overalls on. She takes the overall straps down, so you can only like you can see her titties, but you can't see the nipple area, right? And I'm like, why did she do that? And then she goes, "Move out of the way, Paul." And I'm like, where did that voice come from? And she like walks around the parents, and she starts looking at the car that they're about to buy. She gets under the hood, and now I'm the salesperson. I'm like blown away by this. I'm like, what the hell's going on here? I thought I'm being punked by like Ashton Kutcher, right? She gets under the car. It starts looking at the car. And I'm like, I asked Paul, and I'm like, what is she doing? And he's like, she's the best mechanic in the whole family. We're all mechanics. I've been a mechanic for 45 years. My son's a mechanic. My wife's a mechanic. My son's a mechanic. My brother's a mechanic. My daddy was a mechanic. But that girl right there, best in the whole family. She knows cars. It's incredible. Like, you'll not believe. And then the girl, like, literally, like, she like crawls out from under the car, and she's like, "Daddy, this car's good, but it has this one thing you need to fix, this other thing you need to fix." And I'm looking at my chart, and I know exactly what's wrong with the car, and I'm like, "Holy God, she's right about everything." Like, this chick knew just from like being 5 minutes under the car. She described literally like what I was about to tell him the car had, because it was an older car in the back of the lot. So I had to disclose, whatever issues the car had, because it wasn't like one of our premier cars. And she was like, "Daddy, you buy this car, I can have it fixed within about 2 days." And I'm like, I want to marry her so badly, but I'm afraid this would be like a Texas Chainsaw Massacre type of family that I, I don't know what to say. But they bought the car, and they're actually really cool, and I got to see her titties. That's the end of the
Oh,
story.
okay, all right. So are we done with this particular one? Because I want to get in. I want to get into the last section here, which is my brave and daring predictions about the about the next round of the Stanley Cup playoffs. This is going to be a very quick. This is going to be a very quick section here.
Yeah, you and quick sports predictions. I doubt that.
How did that work out last year with the Panthers there, buddy?
Yeah, go for it. But I doubt if it's going to be short.
Yeah, well, definitely not short. No, this is going to be longer than the Diddy trial, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Okay. Well, unless you guys want to start talking. Okay. All right. We'll start with the Eastern Conference, which is going to be Toronto against Florida. I am going to stick my neck out here, and I'm going to say that Toronto will get past Florida. That's my prediction.
How did that work out for you last year, by the way?
Hey, it went to 7 games, man. It went down to 1 goal differential in 7 games.
Never underestimate the warm weather and the Panthers. We rule, baby.
Yep. I'm gonna stick my neck out on this one. I'm gonna say Toronto over Florida, but it's gonna be a 7-game series. It's gonna be exciting as fuck. Washington over Carolina in 5. Again, Carolina, the only reason Carolina is in this next round is because they were taking on the Devils, who were really in that, like 3 of their 4 best players on the Devils team were sitting on injured reserve. So I am going to go Washington over Carolina in 5. Carolina is just not that particularly good of a team. Edmonton and Vegas. This is where I'm also going to surprise people, because you would think I'm like fully on board with the Oilers. No, I'm going to go, and I'm going to say it's going to be Vegas in 7 or 6 or 7 over the Oilers. This Oilers team just doesn't seem to have enough oomph to get over the hump again. The only reason they got past LA is because Edmonton made the adjustments that they needed to make after Game 3. But even then, the only reason they won is because of I think one of the games went into overtime, and they scored in overtime. Winnipeg against Dallas. I am going to go Winnipeg in 6 or 7. Again, Winnipeg's was the best team in the league during the regular season, and I think they're just that much better than Dallas. Dallas and Colorado, though, was one hell of a first-round series. And that, folks, is my last section on the Red Pill Nation Hangout this week. Unless any of you guys have anything more to add, we're done.
The only reason why you said Vegas is because you want to root for the whores and nothing else. You know the whores.
Facts.
You know the whores are in Vegas, and you're rooting for Vegas because
#facts.
That's right.
Yeah, and I'm gonna say one thing, Neroke, and I'll make my quick NHL prediction. I'm sorry, but Panthers are gonna win, baby. Maple Leafs, yeah, no, I'm sorry. Maples and Leaves don't win against Panthers. It's like rock paper scissors. It's not gonna happen.
And
All right.
I do have to give you guys kudos. At least it's freaking hockey and it's not rugby like some freaking colonial
Oh
countries.
Lord, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Excuse me, it's rugby.
I mentioned that on some other shows, and everybody doesn't quite understand that it's not right for men to hug in circles and rub each other's asses while they're wearing silk freaking shorts.
That is pretty out there. But hey, look, so is cricket.
Oh God!
Oh God, I know nothing. I know nothing about cricket. I know nothing of. I barely even know how the sport is played.
He sounds like Schultz off the freaking Hogan's Heroes. I know nothing.
Nothing about the
I know nothing about that city sport. Anyway, that is it for tonight, folks. I hope you enjoyed the show. Just remember to our second corporate sponsor, which is Tinfoil Hats Are Us. That's right. You've been dealing with all those pesky alien abductions. With Tinfoil Hats Are Us has got fashionable hats for you, for the entire family, including the family pet. Just remember when you just remember our code, and you have to scream it, not type it in. They're not gonna get me to get 10% off your first order. That's right. Tinfoil hats are us. Yep, no more probes in uncomfortable locations from those aliens, unless you happen to be Gimp Suit Rearson. And with that, we are done for tonight. Thank you very much. I will catch you on Red Pill Nation Hangout 2:30. And then what is it? 2. And we'll catch you on Red Pill Nation Hangout number 440 next Sunday. That's it, everybody. We are done for tonight.